everybody. Yat Ebene. Thank you so much for joining on the first annual First Year Experience Symposium. We're really excited for today's lineup, and we have some really awesome guest speakers here to join us for both of our morning and our afternoon sessions. So as you might have seen through our advertising and emails, we'll be having the symposium is going to be one day, and we're going to be having one morning session where we'll highlight our relatives over at the College of Menominee Nation, and we'll break for lunch, and then in the afternoon we'll welcome our other set of relatives from the University of South Dakota, where they'll talk more about their programming as well. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we will get started. Alrighty, so as we mentioned, this is the First Year Experience Symposium. This is a learning environment for all of our relatives who are coming in from different areas, working in education, of course. So the topic to highlight is the first year experience. So this is anybody who is going to college for the first time, and that can range in so many different ways, from those who are preparing in high school to get ready to go to college, and that college readiness aspect, as well as those who are getting a head start on thinking about college, and then our non-traditional students as well, who might not have gone to college right away, but are still going to college for the first time, really just to help them along with that transition and everything. And we've offered a lot of support to our first year college students, and giving them support and resources to help them get through that, with different topics to talk about with them. And we do this Go to College series during the summer, which is coming up again, and we'll start to release that advertisement once we get the gears rolling on that. But we wanted to create a virtual space for our administrators and our staff who are working in the first year experience space. And we wanted to also provide an opportunity for you to have professional development and grow your own resources. And even for those who want to grow their own first year experience programs at their school, or maybe even develop that. The cool thing about this morning session actually is we're going to be having the College of Menominee Nation, who is in those steps of developing their first year program, and talk about their processes and their who their consultant, and talking about the steps on how to get to that point and why they need that at their school and the benefits of that. So really excited. I'm really excited for this whole thing. I really hope that everybody enjoys the content. Feel free to engage in the chat. I love seeing all the shout outs and introductions in the chats. And yeah, we'll have plenty of time to do some. Well, we'll open up the chat as well, or open up we'll give you guys the ability to open up your mics, and we'll kind of have like a little discussion as well, where my co-host will come up and also read some possible discussion questions to go over. So here are your hosts. So we have been working diligently to create this process, and also reach out to our contacts to create the symposium and bring the different topics to mind. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. So Yat Ebene, everybody. Adriana so Yinishiak Ozofana Nishla Ki Ani Bashashin Zedashkijni Dashchek Oke Dashanale. Hello everybody. Again, my name is Adriana So. I am the program associate for the college access team with the American Indian College Fund. So I am relatively new to this role. I just started in December, but before that I was a college success coach. So I still kind of result to saying college success coach, but I've been with the College Fund for a little over 2 years now. And it's definitely been such a pleasure to work with all of our students, ranging in all different areas of life. And, those who are, again, in high school, getting ready to go to college, those who graduated or got done and did not go immediately to college but are still getting there and still really want to go, and then working with our current college students as well, our scholarship recipients. Little plug, our scholarship is now open on February 1st, so any of your students, yourselves, if you're thinking about going back to school, definitely apply. Our application can be found on our website. And I'm Navajo. I am originally from Gallup, New Mexico, but I currently reside in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. So Autumn, I know you just joined on, but do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hami Takuyapi, Dayawa Chianke. Hello, relatives. It's good to see you. My name is Autumn White Eyes. I'm from the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. I currently reside in Rapid City, South Dakota. I work remotely for the American Indian College Fund as a program officer in our TCU capacity for student success program. Um, Part of our initiative is to provide funding to tribal colleges and universities. We have about 29 tribal colleges and universities in our program where we provide funding to support their graduation, retention, and graduation, retention, and enrollment efforts through strategic enrollment management. Um, and so we have a few speakers today who are part of that program. Maybe we have some participants who are also part of that program. It's called the Cultivating Native Student Success Program. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit about my work. I don't know if I'm gonna go too in depth there.
Thank you, Autumn. Yes, we are really excited for our guest speakers to begin here. But again, just as a refresher for our agenda today, we're in the introduction morning session right now, and then we'll be starting off with the College of Menominee Nation, where they will be highlighting their steps in their progresses right now, developing their first year program. And then we'll break around 11:30 Mountain Standard Time. Again, we're in Mountain Time Zone. Where we'll see how it goes. You know, like I know we'll have time for questions, or if you want to talk with our representatives from the College of Menominee Nation. But Autumn also has prepared some roundtable discussions, kind of revolving around the first year space as well. So we'll kind of see where it goes. There's really no like hard stop or anything here. And then we'll go ahead and break for lunch. So this one, I'll leave the Zoom on and I'll just kind of put it on our transition page, and you can feel free to leave your Zoom on and then come back. Or you can leave, just make sure that you have the invite link still with you. But I'll leave it on if anybody wants to leave their Zoom session running. Just make sure to put it on mute or whatever you need to. Oh, on mute. We're in webinar, so it'll already be on mute. But yeah, then we'll come back around 1 and we'll do our afternoon session where we'll introduce our relatives from the University of South Dakota, where they'll talk about their first year programming, specifically about their peer mentoring program. So we're really excited to hear from them. And then we'll do another set of roundtable discussions. And then we'll close at 3 o'clock. So yeah, we're really looking forward to this. We have an action-packed event going on, and definitely we also have some prizes. So sometime after College of Menominee Nation ends, we'll break to do a quick poll, and there'll be 2 chances for everybody in here who's currently attending to win one of the 2 $20 gift cards that we'll be giving out. So all you gotta do is just put your email, and then we'll do kind of like a live drawing and see who wins those gift cards. But we also have some event evaluations as well for each session. So please submit those, and we'll give all that information after the presentations are done as well. And you'll be entered to win some other prizes that we have. So one of them is a Amazon Fire tablet, as well as some really cool headphones to utilize. So the key to get those the key to be entered to win those is to complete those event evaluations. But the gift cards, we'll do that here on live sessions. So awesome. And then also you might have seen as well, the first 20 registrants do receive a copy of the Academic Advising Handbook. And we have identified those, and I'll be reaching out to all of y'all to get your mailing addresses and everything with that as well. So without further ado, I don't want to take too much time because I'm really excited to introduce our guest speakers. So again, we are going to be having College of Menominee Nation present for this morning session, where they'll talk more about their programming, and especially for those of you who might be in the space where you possibly want to create your own first year programming, or if you want to develop that, or just hear more about their steps and processes. And yeah, definitely, if I'm sure they'll have their contact information, so if you need to reach out to them, feel free to do that. This is a learning environment and a networking environment as well, so feel free to collaborate or do whatever you need to do to create these spaces for your students. So without further ado, Kayla, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you. Kayla is again coming from the College of Menominee Nation and is the Dean of Student Success. at that lovely school, and she has brought along another guest speaker as well. So Kayla, the floor is yours. I will stop sharing.
Hi, everyone. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. So my name is Kayla Diamond. I am the Dean of Student Success here at the College of Menominee Nation, and I will be one of the presenters today, along with Dr. Benjamin Rieth, who we are contracting with to help us build our first year experience. So I'll hand the floor over to him here to introduce himself real quick.
Thanks, Kayla. Buzu Kreweya, Digital Cause, Europeyu, Dr. Betty Reith, BKC and Dondem. It is great to be here with you all. My name is Betty Reith. I am currently the Vice President of Student Affairs and Enrollment and Belonging at Bellin College. And I'm also consulting with Cause Menominee through my consulting organization, which is BelongingU, Rieth Strategy Solutions. I'm going to go ahead and drop it in the chat because I saw some people asking a little bit about it. Sorry, I actually don't have a cold today. I actually have I had surgery on Monday in my nose, and so I have these stents in my nose. So I apologize for sounding a little muffled with you all today. But I'm super excited to be here with you all. Be with Kayla. We started this journey together. I think we started talking last year, Kayla,
Yes.
a lot about first year experience, and it is a pride and joy that I have with working with institutions, specifically on first year experience. It's how I got involved in higher ed. I'm an enrolled member of the Battle River Band of Lake Superior Chippewa and a descendant of the Menominee Nation. My Menominee name is Iwapeyu, and I'm super excited to be here.
We are super excited for you to help us along the way. So, can everyone see my screen? Just make sure. Okay, so I am going to start out the presentation. I'm going to tell you a little bit of where we're currently at. Then I'll go over and kind of hand it over to Dr. Benjamin Rieth, where he talks about some of his contractual work and how he plans on helping us. And then we're gonna talk about what's next. So kind of what we talked about and what we have planned for the fall 2025 semester. And then what we are hoping for, the results of this building this first year experience program. And that will be a little bit of both me and Dr. Benjamin. So currently we have the Student Success Strategies course here at CMN Gen 100. Students are required to take this their first semester. However, that does not always happen. From fall 2022 to fall 2024 for those semesters, not including summer, there were 143 first-time freshmen, and only 63 of them, so about 43%, took Gen 100 their first semester. And the reason why this is important for them to take their first semester is because this course is designed to help our students become engaged members of the College of Menominee Nation community and introduce them to those strategies and tools necessary for academic, professional, and personal success. Again, in the course description, it mentions that this course is required for all associate degree programs and must be taken their first semester. However, we weren't really enforcing it as much, and a lot of the times we noticed that we were only, for the longest time, we were only offering one option for them. However, just recently, this past fall semester, we started offering more options such as an online, different sections, with like different days and times. So hopefully that number, in addition to creating this first year experience program, which is going to be linked to student success, we'll see that percentage go up. And then just a little bit more about student success strategies and the course success. So there's the graph there where you can see in the green for all the semesters, those are the C or better, where they completed it with a C or better. So in fall, it was 64.91%, spring 23, or says 2033, but it's 2023. It was 77.14%, fall of 23, 86.05%, spring of 24, 72.22%, and then fall you see it dropped 50.94. And then we really want to focus on the C or better because we feel like if students are completing it with a C or better, they are retaining enough information in order to be successful throughout their academic journey. So you'll see there though that the C, D, or F, in fall, it was 28.07, spring 17.14, fall of 23, 6.98, spring of 24, 16.67%, and fall of 24, 37.74%. Then we also want to focus on those that withdrew. So we want to somehow, as we're creating this program, reach out to them and figure out why they withdrew, because they still need to take it. Did they withdraw from all their classes? Was it a total withdrawal? Did they just withdraw from this class? So in fall, it was 7.02, spring of 2023, 5.71%, fall of 2023, 6.98%, spring of 2024, 11.11, and then fall of 2024, 11.32%. So we have a pretty high amount of students that are receiving a CD, D, F, or are withdrawing from the course. Okay, so right now, and I thought it was important to focus on our student orientation where we're at, because that's going to be also part of our first year experience program. So for our student orientation right now, it is made mandatory for first-time freshmen, but we don't fully enforce it again. We don't document, we have them sign in, but we don't document it anywhere right now to look back to get that data and assess it. It's a come and go event. They order their textbooks, we have them log into their accounts, they meet staff, they learn about services, and they complete their FAFSA. So typically what we have done in the last, I would say maybe 3-4 years, is we've had stations along with a checklist, and students go to all the stations where they do all those. Someone will sign off on it, and if they complete all the stations and turn in their checklist, they get an extra ticket in for the door prize. But again, it's been very hard to kind of look back and see what students did attend, if they were successful in their studies, linking it to that, because we don't document it anywhere. Wanted to kind of just talk about our historic enrollment here, because as part of the first year experience program, we are talking about those first-time freshmen and the high school students. So here is kind of where our head count has landed from fall of 2022 to spring of 2024. So you'll see there that the first-time freshmen and high school students, it is a small percent. Most of our students are returning, continuing, transfer students, but that small percent is still huge because we still have to find ways to connect them to the campus and have them be successful so we can retain them. And we also expect this to increase because, as another one of our focus areas under the CNSS grant that we received, we are creating a high school pathway for our local high school, the Menominee Nation High School. So we are hoping to see that number of first-time freshmen and high school students increase. So with all of that, we received the Cultivating Native Student Success grant from the American Indian College Fund, which allowed us to really look at 4 focus areas that we wanted to work on as part of this grant. And one of them that we decided was we wanted to increase students' sense of belonging. Under that focus area, we had 4 activities that we wanted to focus on, and that was to create and strengthen the first year experience program, support our Indigenous wellness here at CMN, strengthen relationship between faculty and student advising, and creating that common area for students to use and give them that sense of belonging and connection at both campuses, because we do have the main campus here in Kashina, and then we have a campus in Green Bay that's located close to the Oneida Reservation. And with that being said, that's where we decided to contract with Dr. Benjamin Rieth. So I will go ahead and I will turn it over to him, and I know I have control of the mouse, so just let me know when you wanna go on to the next slide.
Sounds good. Will do. Will do. Well, it's awesome again to be here. It was an exciting opportunity to partner with College Menominee Nation when it comes to first year experience programming. But our biggest goal is connecting and understanding how we can create spaces where everyone feels like they belong. And that's like a personal goal that I have for our students when working with different college students. That's my biggest aspiration is like, how can we really work with students on that process? So we created different types of theories and different types of paradigms that we could really create and foster this belonging that we're talking about. You could go ahead and hit the next slide, Kayla. So when I started looking at the idea of student sense of belonging and first year experience programming, I started to look to see what institutions were struggling with when during COVID, when people were coming back from COVID, there was this lack of sense of belonging, right? A lack of a holistic approach towards students, professionalism, students taking like academic responsibility. We were losing those different types of things. A lack of student engagement, a lack of student socialization, relationship building. So these type of things that we were losing. So we needed to develop something that would work with our students, to create like a skeleton first year experience program for folks, as well as a different type of theory as well. So if you go ahead and click to the next slide there, Kayla. So when we're talking about belonging, I like to use Strayhorn's definition. That sense of belonging refers to a student's perceived social support on campus, a feeling of sensation, of connectedness, an experience of mattering or feeling cared about, accepted, respected, and valued by, and important to the campus community, to others on campus, such as faculty, staff, and peers. So when we're breaking down the idea of belonging, like we were the idea of like, how do we walk on campus and what are the characteristics of space where we can focus on these sense of belonging? You can go ahead and click the next slide, Kayla. So when we decided to look at these different aspects in these different areas, I started to understand. I did a couple studies out there. The idea of understanding what is out there, and I came up with 5 R's after using the study that focused on student stories. The idea of using indigenous paradigms and indigenous beliefs through my own indigenous teachings, through the 7 grandfather teachings that I grew up with. And we created this theory. And through this theory, on the left, you're going to see it in the shape of a medicine wheel, which gives you the 5 R's in the middle, that idea of respect, relevance, reciprocity, and responsibility. And then you're going to see relationships on the outer circle of that. And then the little tiny circles that kind of make it look like a little bit of a turtle, is the idea of that's the outer ring. Those are things that institutions need to focus on in general. So if we focus on those 5 R's, this is where we started the idea like we need to build something for our students. When we're talking about belonging, we needed to create these different types of characteristics in order for students to feel like they belong. If you're looking at the right hand side, you're going to see the idea of a flower, and that's the idea. Excuse me, not flower. I'm looking at the flower and say that it's the idea of a strawberry plant, odamen, in Anishinaabe Moan. The odamen is the heartberry. It refers to the strawberry, the system that you need these different types of things in order for this plant to survive. So you can see the roots is the relevance, the idea that the student needs to be, the space needs to be relevant to them in some way or another. You're going to see reciprocity when we're talking about photosynthesis, that reaction. You're going to see the stem as respect, that it can be broken, but it can also be repaired, and that it can be strong. And then the responsibility of pollination to create other spaces or to create other strawberry plants or daemon. And then you see the relationship there, which is the actual berry itself. You can go ahead and click the next slide, Kayla. So when we're talking about the R's, so the first R that comes to mind is the relationships. It holds each R together. It's the idea that it's touching everything that's out there. So it's the idea that everything is related in some way or another, right? That's really important to who we are as indigenous people, that finding and understanding the relationship that we have with one another and to the objects around us. So the idea with relationships, it was in the circle. And in color, so there's the medicine wheel, and then the outer ring is yellow, and that's the idea of Mikizibi. Actually the idea of the moon, and the idea with the moon is, as a Anishinaabe, we believe that that the moon is our grandmother in the sky, giving us light on the darkest of nights, and that's what relationships do to us. It's that idea that it's giving us this strong connection. Respect, it can be shown in many different forms. An example, respecting people in groups such as a fraternity, friend group, etc. It can be all sorts of different things around in colleges. You can hit the next one, Kayla. Um, the next one is relevance. It's referring that, again, a space needs to be relevant to them in some way. The group, something needs to be relevant in general to help foster that sense of belonging. Reciprocity, it refers to a two-way street. It's a little bit more confusing. It's the idea of like a student must give something and receive something in return. So in order to feel like that they are getting something in general, they both have to put in that work to work into that. Like if we're talking about a relationship, for example. Responsibility, so it must be incorporated in some way or another. There are many ways how someone could have that responsibility in many forms, such as responsibility to yourself, finding space where you belong. But when we did the study, the idea is so many students actually said, when they said, what advice do you have for students? And they said that they have some type of responsibility to their belonging, they're putting themselves out there, which is really scary for students sometimes, right? And then there's different types of responsibility being part of our organization, a team, and so many different pieces as well. You can click the next slide, Kayla. So as we started to build this, we wanted to create like, how can this be specific? So when we were going through this actual process, I started to create this idea of belonging as the focus. So if we're going to create something, all of these R's need to be engaged in some way or another for our students. So it's going to support resources. It's going to be doing a lot of different aspects within this orientation. Before college nomination, they had their summer orientation, like Kayla was mentioning, in August. So it was about 2 weeks, right, Kayla, about before your orientation? Yeah, great. I can see you shaking your head. So I'm someone that, like, when we're talking with engaging students, we got to engage them when they sign on the dotted line that they are committing to us as an institution. So there's different ways that we can do that, through emails, through program directors calling, through admission perspectives, to student ambassadors calling, or whomever you may have, right? Part of that is as well as engaging them with different events. And part of that is through summer orientation programming. So I believe of having that in June and July, some type of multiple opportunities where students could sign up. And in that opportunity, we're going to focus on belonging. We're going to focus on support resources, an advisor, and an Indigenous connection. So when we're talking specifically to FYE in that orientation bucket, that first start, it's that first start of entering the institution. It's like dipping your toes into the institution. So, and when we're talking about support resources, we're starting to touch, we're starting to go over the surface a little bit of understanding of what this is a little bit more for each person. After the idea during that orientation process, they are going to be advised in that section as well. They're going to be advised, and they're going to leave with an actual college schedule. So that's something very different from CMN has done in the past, where they had students signing up, right, Kayla? I think you said after powwow, which is in the second week of August for us, or the first weekend of August. So the idea is like getting people advised ahead of time, getting them excited for their classes, getting them knowing where the footing is. It's that understanding of they know what they're doing. They're starting to feel a little bit more connected to the institution. They're starting to feel and foster their belonging as well. Week of welcome is a little bit different. So week of welcome can be different for a lot of institutions. When I've worked with other institutions, it's been sometimes a whole week, sometimes it's been a weekend. I'm typically used to a weekend, like a Friday to a Sunday. For CMED, we're focusing specifically on a 2-day process. And it's all about tailoring it to you, or tailoring it to your institution as a whole. So during the week of welcome process, it's the idea of during that time, we're going to focus on belonging. That's like the number one thing that we're going to be focusing on. We're going to get students connected to us and to each other. By the time their first day of school starts, the idea is that they already know the people's names in the room. They already know their classmates. That's holding in on the small classroom field, that small institutional size. So we're going to focus on doing a lot of different types of activities, a lot of different types of icebreakers, and really getting students connected to each other. So we're going to have a student success workshop. And I believe the student success workshop comes out of that student success course, that general elective that we were talking about, right? We're going to focus on, of course, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging as an aspect, as who we are. And we're going to be focusing on our values of connecting to your values, connected to college of denominations. So, and when I say that is, when a student is leaving their home, right, they have these values that they grew up with. It's their first opportunity where they can really start to hone in on what are their thoughts, what are their values, what does that mean to them. So it's about opening that up and then finding the connection to college of denomination or to the institution. And when we do that, we're creating that more connection for themselves, that belonging again to that institution, as well as that camaraderie, that experience, that love to the institution, because you understand what it means and what it stands for. So that's something that's really hard. So, and then we go through a little bit more of the mission gets harder. You can see other life gets harder, mission driven. And one of the most important aspects when we're talking about that is understanding that what I tell students through first year experience programming is I'm kind of real with them. I'm not trying to scare them. I'm trying to have real conversations about college is hard, right? But it's doable, and it's something that we can do together, and it's something that no one gets done alone. Michelle Obama makes that quote that no one finishes colleges alone. And that's so true. It's relying on different aspects, there's different resources, different classmates, professors, and so many different things that makes a college community a community. So when we're talking about that, we talk, you can see again, life gets harder. We say that a lot of times you hear like, it gets easier, it gets easier. And the reality is, does it really get easier? The reality is that life gets harder. We learn how to handle harder better. And explaining that to our students, that we're strong enough to persist and keep moving forward as a person. And through that process is we're strong enough to move forward as a community and as a culture, right? We are still here as Indigenous people. And what does that mean for us? So it's more than just connecting them to themselves, but it's connecting them way further than that. Now, something else that we really focus on specifically is the cultural aspects, right, of college Menominee Nation. With the Menominee Nation in general, we do different types of opportunities where we're going to bring in different cultural sessions. I'm working with Kayla in specifics to who they have as resources at the college, as well as who we have within our community of who we can connect with. Is it some downtime where we have meeting circle? Is it different types of opportunities, storytelling that we talked about at night? Different aspects, as well as the fun aspects. And the fun aspects with it, I said the icebreakers and stuff, but this is going to go into the opportunity where students can stay later and have a bonfire, hang out, and create that community feel. We also are going to be creating a little bit more of a mentorship program and revamping that. So, Kayla, you've had a little bit of that mentorship program in the past before. Do you want to go through that quick, and then I can kind of explain the change a little bit to that?
We actually really haven't had too much of the mentorship program in the past. Our education program is really one of the only programs right now that really does like a faculty student advising and mentorship program, which is another one of our focus areas that we want to focus on, is to implement faculty advising mentorship within all of our programs, because the education program, their students all programs our students do good in, but our education students, they really have that bond and that cohort with each other because of the mentorship and the faculty advising. Like they'll have dinners, they'll have talking circles with each other. So we want to create something like that, a faculty advising mentorship model for all of our programs.
Perfect. Thank you, Kayla.
Yep.
So something that we've talked about is specifically is getting them different types of resources out there, right? So part of that is through the mentorship program is I like to ensure that students have two people, an employee as well as a student. So it's a returning student to something that we're focusing on, hoping that we'll be able to implement by fall, as well as an employee, where it'll be part of their course actually. So a lot of times people are like, how are you doing this? How are you doing this process? How is it going to be required for students? Is it not going to be required for students? So the goal is to make this required to students. And the way that we are going to do this, and that I've done this before, is working with that general education course, that student success course. Put it as part of their grade of going to week of welcome. Part of their participation points are part of that. They are mentoring, going to specific meetings, so typically to 2 to 3 throughout the fall semester. And then going throughout that process, that course looks a little different when we're talking about a little bit more of that belonging. So again, that theory that you're going to see on the left, it's not going away. It's actually built within that general education course. So for example, students will have to finish an academic, an engagement, and a cultural aspect. And with those different engagement programs, so let's say academics, they go to tutoring, they go get to office hours. They're going to reflect on that, and they're going to connect it to one of the R's. Is that taking responsibility? And they're going to be talking about that within a reflection and submitting that as an assignment. And let's say engagement. Okay, I went to this activity on campus that was all about, let's say it was something like really fun, like I don't know, let's say a group of students did a student organization got together and they were tie-dyeing something, or it was a picnic on campus. Okay, so those different types of things, write about them, connect them to something. Did you build those relationships? Was there reciprocity there? Was there relevance there? And talk about that in specific so they understand their own belonging. And then same with the cultural aspect. Something that's different that we're working with College of Nomination is building that in specific. We went to a cultural event that we offer, whether that is my auntie Madi does teas, like doing something specific to learning about the different types of teas that we do within our nation and um, understanding the cultural aspects of those different things. So there's definitely a lot of different aspects that we've been talking about. Other things that you'll see on here is first events throughout the semester. We're going to build that in as well. Understanding that there could be different like ways just to get those first few students together a little bit more. And then admitted student day is something that we talked about. Not sure if that's something that we're going to be able to implement this year, but hopefully for the following year. And that's something that we do in spring. Again, another way to engage with our students as well into the future. You can hit the next one. I think that was it for me, Kayla. Go ahead.
Okay, so what's next? So what, similar to what Dr. Benjamin mentioned, was we had orientation August 26th and 27th. And typically how we have done that in the past was the 26th was a come and go event here in Kashina, and then the 27th was a come and go event at the Green Bay campus. So what we decided to do was we are bumping that student orientation back or earlier. We're going to have it earlier. So we are going to have it July 14th or July 21st. So students will choose one of the days. We are going to bus the Green Bay students to the main campus. So the Green Bay students, they will start out at the Green Bay campus, kind of get a little tour of the campus, meet the Green Bay staff. And then we have transportation here on the Menominee Reservation. So we're going to work with them to go to the Green Bay campus and bus those students down here. It's going to be more structured. They're going to be able to get a tour of the campus. They're going to address any admissions issues they may have. They're going to be able to register for courses. We can get them logged into their accounts. They can order their textbooks. They're going to learn about campus resources. And this is important because it'll be before our registration deadline versus orientation in the last few semesters. It was after our registration deadline. So it was basically, we weren't able to register students after that. So it'll be kind of like a one-stop. They can take care of everything, and then they will be set to go when they leave here, and then they'll come to our next event, which I'll go into right here, which will be the welcome event. And we are hoping to, well, we will have a rollout for the fall semester. So it'll be what our previous orientation dates were. So August 26th will be a full day, and then the 27th will be a half day. Again, we're going to bus the Green Bay students to the Kashina campus. The enrollment at the Green Bay campus is a lot lower than the Kashina campus. So in the past, doing activities, we would have them separate, and it was very difficult because there wasn't that many students at the Green Bay campus, and there were a lot of students here at the Kashina campus. So by busing the Green Bay students here, it'll also give them that connection and that sense of belonging to everything here at the main campus. They'll be able to connect and build relationships more. It'll make just activities more meaningful to them. Activities, Dr. Benjamin Rieth talked about a lot of the activities that he's planning on doing, make it cultural. So whether it's, storytelling, talking circles, bringing in that Indigenous aspect of, like he mentioned, his aunt does teas, so maybe bringing her in for a tea workshop. Activities that will give them the connection to the campus, connection to the peers, a sense of belonging, and the connection to the culture. So we do need options. A lot of our students here are non-traditional students that are working and have children. And I just put over the past how many semesters, the percentage of our students that are those non-traditional students. So you'll see here, at spring 2024, it was at 78% of our students were non-traditional students that were working or have children. So we need to have those options because not everyone is going to be able to attend these events, take a day off of work for student orientation, take a day and a half off of work for the welcome event, or find childcare. So Dr. Benjamin has, if you want to kind of step in here and talk about what you do at Bellin right now with your, if they aren't able to attend, we're going to implement something like that here at CMN. So they're still learning, it's a few more steps for the student to go through, but they're still learning everything. They're still getting that connection, and they're still prepared and ready for school to start. So I'll let him tell you what he does there, what he's hoping to implement here.
Yeah, absolutely. So something I think that's really important when we're talking to students is explaining them what's going on. So I like to call it that when they're having an informed decision. So I have students when working with college students from all over, like the things that they say that the reason why they can't come to an event like this, some are real, right? Some are like, I have, like Kayla's mentioned, I have work, I have this. Some of it's like, I have this thing that's something else that's happening, and you're like, huh? So my biggest piece is not being the one to make the decision for them all the time. And I think that's really important, especially when we're talking with Indigenous students, giving them the opportunity to make that informed decision of what's going on, what's really important to them. So we explain to them what happens if they miss. So we explain what exactly are they missing. We walk them through that process. We walk them through like what exactly are they missing, and what are the consequences of missing that. As a student here, what is the consequences of their belonging here? So we're very real with them and understanding with explaining why. Um, Now things happen, right? There is a death in the family. There is someone is sick, or there is people that like they have no one else to help care for them and their children. What do they do? So we're creating different types of programs for our students to be able to meet them where they're at. A lot of that is going to be a lot of one-on-ones for our advisors. So Kayla has, I think you said 3 advisors, right? So those different advisors will be meeting with students. They will focus on within Kayla's Office of Students being engaged in general about the different resources. So there's going to be an advisor who's going to be walking through them. There's going to be someone who's specifically walking through them of like those different types of supports and those different things that they missed with those different aspects. But they're also going to be required to do some things when they get on campus. So they missed that belonging piece, right? And that's one of the biggest pieces we really want to focus on. So as I mentioned before, there's some like different assignments that they will have to do within their course, and it's a requirement, right? So how do we make up that assignment? So part of that is adding a couple more of those engagement assignments on for students. Now, it's not to punish them. It's the idea of understanding that belonging is important, and we explain to our students that it's our responsibility to help them foster spaces where they can feel like they belong. So so part of that is doing those different types of reflected assignments with them, having to meet with someone in from academic success specifically, reflecting on that as well. So it has all different parts of those assignments. Typically, an engagement assignment, an academic assignment, and then something again that focuses a little bit more on that belonging piece. So there is a makeup for those, and besides those one-on-ones that go along with it. So that's something that's where we're still figuring out exactly what that would look like for our students. We don't know how many students it's going to affect too. If it affects more than let's say it's like 5 students, that gives us the opportunity of possibly doing something with those 5 students, of course. So it just depends if they're sporadic or there's a group of students that we can work with as well.
Thank you. So some of the results that we're hoping to see from this. So increased Gen 100 core success, increasing that connection and that sense of belonging with our students, which ultimately leads to an increase in academic success. Improved retention rate of our first-time freshmen, improved retention rate of our high school students. And then again, improved student orientation attendance. I mentioned earlier, we didn't really have a place to track it, so it was hard to. We recently also implemented Navigate 360 EAB. So we're planning to use that to start tracking our student orientation and the welcome events and any of the other events that we have here on campus. So then that way we're able to assess it. We're able to pull those students that attended these events and then look at their semester academic at the end at their transcript and their success rate, and compare it to those who didn't attend and figure out if it's a big difference, if it's a similar small difference. So that'll really help us track and be able to assess how this program is working for us. Does anybody have any questions? I know there's a question and answer, I believe, Autumn, in here. I don't see. Okay, yep, I see it right here. So someone asked, thinking about the orientation, even the 100-level course class for first year experience, how do you imagine this being scaled up to a public four-year university where the native student population is less than 1%? Dr. Benjamin, have you worked with any public four-year universities where there's a small Native American population?
I have, and I think something that we really focus on is creating that space for them to come together, creating that type of space. So at Bellin College, for example, we've created something called BSET. It stands for Bellin Students Empowered Together. We don't have a large Indigenous population, but we don't even have a large BIPOC population, unfortunately. So what that BSET program does is bring in our BIPOC students, and we have conversations about culture, and we have different types of conversations about this creating that community feel between BIPOC students. So something that I've seen is specifically bringing in Indigenous students and offering something for them, offering those different types of activities that is storytelling, that is different types of culturally significance to them, to help them foster the sense of belonging within the institution. I think it's really important to help see themselves, right? Institutions weren't built for us. It wasn't built for Indigenous students. It was built to exclude us. So if we can create different types of programming for us that is out there, that's where we're going to find a little bit more of our belonging, and that is how we're going to help foster these institutions that is more like us. Something else that we'll be doing, Kayla kind of mentioned assessment is something really important to me. My assessment is based off of Indigenous paradigms and Indigenous beliefs. So using different types of talking circles, and gathering different types of data is something that's important. So implementing how we even collect data for our students so that they can see themselves in a different way of how we're collecting data is super imperative. So something that we'll be doing is we're actually going to be assessing our current students that are that have not gone through this process, and we're going to ask them questions about their belonging and such, and then we're going to ask students. The students that have got to go through this program through different talking circles as well to see what is the difference between our students that didn't get this and the students that have received this. So, good question.
Okay, I have my contact information and I know Dr. Benjamin Rieth put his in the chat, but it's also there too, his email. So you can feel free to reach out to either one of us. We are very excited here to get this program up and going for the fall semester. A lot of work that's put into it, but it'll be worth it for our students, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see them with activities at that welcome event and just have them bond and create that cohort and that sense of belonging.
Absolutely. We wanted. Thank you so much for having us, Big Watch.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Kayla and Dr. Benjamin Rieth. I just want to give you all virtual applause if you all can do that on the webinar. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciated everything that you all spoke about and all the different different ways you're looking at this first year experience and the different things that you're thinking about as well. It looks like folks are also applauding in the chat right now. And then next up, we have a roundtable discussion. So I have some questions I put together, also thinking about the things you presented on in your presentation. And so I want to continue this conversation that we started here. The roundtable discussion is going to go from 11:30 to 12. But I know you all just got done presenting, so is it okay? How about let's take a little break and then return at 11:15 for that roundtable discussion. Does that sound okay? Yeah. Okay, so if folks need a break, we'll return at 11:15 for the roundtable discussion. Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like an awesome way to both create that sense of belonging, right? And create those peer relationships. Julia?
Hi everyone, my name is Julia. I personally am doing a parenting group in my college, so we advertise through our email, our student email, and the title is like Healing Together as Parents in Recovery. And it's obviously for NWIC students only, Northwest Indian College students. I think sometimes we reach out to a wellness program advocate, Heather Jefferson, and she's been really beautiful asset. She's like the auntie of the group. But basically what we like to do is connect with Native American students, or I think the majority of the population is Native at NWIC. And so we come together and just have conversations of what it's like to be a student and a parent in recovery. And I've had students share their personal story, or there's just been a lot of healing and growth, and it's always on Zoom. And my goal this semester is to come together in person and invite parents. I'm trying to uh, get more folks to know about it, because uh, I want to do an in-person sweat lodge with my peers. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm up to. And if anybody wants more information on that, um, I'm happy to discuss more.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Julia. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey everyone, my name is Panda. I work at a four-year university at Cal State San Bernardino, one of our CSUs, and we have about 20,000 students. And so it's, I guess, just some of the challenges we're faced, right, is kind of getting everyone together. And so I work in outreach, so I'm not in, student affairs or student success, academic affairs or anything like that. But I saw the need, right, um, for a first year experience program, because I knew my experience, I got involved with our native programs at a different university, and it really helped, me navigate the institution and understanding, right, how to do that, and how to find my space on campus. And so, right now, our first year experience program is very, very, very much in its like embryonic stages, really. We've been able to put together just one event last semester where we did some, round reed basket weaving, and we're hoping to continue to do more social things on our campus right now. I think one of the things, we're trying to steer away from, at least right now in its embryonic stages, is focusing too much on academics, because students get tired, right, from being in class and things like that, until we can, like what Crystal was saying, have a standalone, first year experience class, right, for them to, come together and kind of challenge what a class space can look like. But at this point, we don't really have resources for this. It's mostly my own labor and supplies that we have from other events. So it's an interesting experience, kind of trying to scrounge together a first year experience. But thank you for the other folks sharing their experience, and also the speakers earlier sharing their insights. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Alex. Yeah, I want to say one of the things that really struck me too, when Benjamin Rieth was talking, was about, that post-COVID time, right? COVID is still happening, right? We know this is the fact, but the sense of belonging that we're trying to create on campuses, and that's what I hear from some of the colleges that I work with, is that there's that struggle of trying to get students um, to the college, creating community in the college, belonging in the college, and just that visibility of being back on college, and being back on campus, and having those peer relationships, because, especially first time college students, I think a lot of them, went into virtual high school, deep into the pandemic. So it's really, trying to get back into that routine of being back with people. So hearing all the different ideas that you all are, coming with, and what you're doing at your schools, it's really good to hear. I think I saw Natasha's hand first, and then we'll go to Trisha.
Hello, my name is Natasha. I'm a fourth year student here at Northwest Indian College, but I am an intern, and I work mostly via Zoom with first year students. We hold a study jam every week. Right now it's 2 hours, where we, get the students to come meet us, or, if they want to join, we can, we have math tutors, English tutors, we have other peer connectors. And so that's kind of what we do. I know we hold it normally also in person. If the students on campus want to join, I believe there are other on-campus activities such as Sweat Lodge. They have meeting, different sites. And what I really like about this internship is we're able to kind of work with the first year students and kind of build that mentorship and connection of students from all over kind of Turtle Island. So yeah, thanks for allowing me to share.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Natasha, I just have a follow-up question to that. Is that like a formal mentorship program that NWIC has for like students only, or is it like a job that you have at the school?
Yeah, so I'm currently an intern,
Mhm.
and it is a position to and we're able to come back once we have graduated. I know that there's also coffee and tea that the college holds, and so it's just for students at Northwest Indian College, and it's really good because that's how I started my first year at NWIC. I reached out to other students. I built that connection. I was able to keep that that connection even though we're not on site. It felt different than doing it from home. And like you mentioned, during the COVID times, it was really hard.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. Trisha?
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, my name is Trisha Roy. I'm an FYE specialist here at Denett College in Saley, Arizona. So one of the things that FYE program is doing this semester is really collaborations with early alert team, wellness center, student activities, because it is hard to get our first-time freshmen to come in and see our FYE specialist team. A lot of the things that is working very good for us is FYE check-ins. So we meet with them either face-to-face, which is students down at the halls, or Zoom sessions, or we can do a hybrid of both. We are not too, because our campus has a cultural resource, we do collaborate with things and what they're working on. So it's just a lot of, emailing students like, hey, this is what's happening on campus, or hey, this is what's going on here. And this year I'm super excited. This spring semester is we're hosting a book club. So we are really trying different ways to connect with our students, mostly academically, not too much with culture or social events. And I believe with the structure we have, it looks really promising. So that's just coming from Denett College here.
Awesome. That's great to hear, Trisha. And then in the chat, I'm gonna put a Google form to so part of the CNSS program, the Cultivating Native Student Success program, we have a first year experience community of practice. So if folks are interested and want to have more conversations like this, please fill out this little survey. It collects your email address and just the way for me to follow up to put on more of like these kind of Zoom sessions so we could hear about different ideas and sharing among one another. Go ahead, Joan. You're next up.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Natasha and Julia for speaking on behalf of our Student Connections program here at Northwest Indian College. I'm the director, Joan Bunnell, non-native guest employee of Lummi Nation and Northwest Indian College. So this program is designed to foster persistence, retention, and graduation for all students. And our primary focus, though, has been first-year students. And we do this through resource connection, peer mentoring, and then we have coach advocates who work directly with students to do their we're all trained with coaching programs, and so we're able to meet with the student and figure out right away, you know, what are their needs, what are their challenges, and at that point, it might be a resource connection, it might be, as Natasha said, a referral to come to our drop-in, or if it works out, we have a peer mentor that can meet with that student. And so the whole idea is just, you know, what does the student need? What does the student want? At Northwest Indian College, you know, we're open to every student coming in. We don't, you know, so I think it's super important to provide whatever the student needs. And so trying to meet the student where they're at, and then working in collaboration with our student activities director and other programs so we can figure out what does that individual student feel connected to, and help them if they need to start a club or join a club, or, you know, whatever they need to feel connected. I know basic needs is a huge thing for our students. You know, a report of a lack of or a huge increase in food insecurity. And so, you know, how do we work to help students figure out, you know, how do we provide that support so their basic needs are met? Anyway, so thanks for letting me speak. And I'll put my email in the chat if anybody's interested in learning more.
Yeah, that sounds like an awesome program, Joan. Thanks so much for sharing about the work that you all are doing. Go ahead, Ash. Oh, you're still on mute if you're talking.
No, hi, sorry. Aloha, I'm Ash. I'm currently in Soldotna, Alaska, at Kenai Peninsula College, and we are one of several community colleges under University of Alaska Anchorage. I'm originally from the Big Island of Hawaii, and I am alumni and a former staff member of UH Hilo, and it's incredibly Indigenous serving focused, like ingrained in everything that we did. And it's not that way here. So I'm really struggling. We have about 2,400 students over 2 campuses, and the majority of them are remote. I tried to run a report and I found 2 students that identify as Alaska Native. We do a semi-problematic performative land acknowledgement for everything, but it's only one person knows how to say it. And I'm struggling, so this is really, really great ideas. Thank you all for sharing. The thing that we're focusing on right now is regalia workshops, because it isn't necessarily discouraged, but it's definitely not encouraged for folks to be able to represent their culture at graduation. So just creating space, even though we don't have any students attending, but reading workshops, giving them time to focus on sewing their capes or sealskin caps. And we're finding that there's no funding for those materials. And also we advocated for stoles for students in our native language program. The majority of them are remote, and because we weren't even wearing cords. So it's hard times over here, and I welcome anyone's thoughts or ideas, but I'm so grateful for this space. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Ash, and I wish you well too. And as you think about all those ideas and reaching your students, I'm gonna shift the conversation a little bit now. one of the things I wanted to ask folks about when we heard over the presentation, Kayla shared with us that about 78% of students were non-traditional students at College of Menominee Nation. So one of my next questions for folks, if anybody wants to share, is how are you thinking about non-traditional Native students at your colleges, and what specific needs that they have in the first year experience space? Do they look the same as first-time college-going students or straight from high school? Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I just want to chime in. Our CSU in California is sort of uniquely positioned. We have a lot of transfer students. It's almost an even split, which most, a lot of our more popular CSUs are not, heavily transfer, very small population. And so a lot of our transfer students are non-traditional students. Specifically, we also have an MOU with a tribal college that's looking to be accredited here in California, California Indian Nations College. So in our MOU, right, part of I guess the agreement, right, the commitments that we've made on our end is to provide some sort of program, right, to help orient and acclimate those students. And so I think initially from the jump, right, this first year experience idea had also that in mind. And I know this past year, of the graduating class that they had about 15 students, we got about 7 of them to our university, right? And so it's important to think about, right, also what content we're providing. I struggle with this a lot, right? Trying to hit all ages, right? I have 2 students that work under me that are also first years, and they're 18 years old, right? But a lot of the students that I work with, coming from California Nations College, some are 40 years old, 50 years old, and it's like, okay, what do we, do? But I think kind of getting along the lines of like cultural knowledge, right? That and even tapping into, their strengths as well, I think is a good way to kind of bring them in, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be us teaching them or us, showing them something that, is new to them, but it can be them showing us, right? As people in the community who do have different, forms of knowledge. And so I always think about that as like a way to, that's a way to create belonging, right? To give, them that responsibility, right? And, us being accountable to each other and responsible for each other, right? And so, kind of taking the back seat and not being the instructor or the teacher all the time, right? And allowing them to become the teachers, right? Mhm.
Absolutely. I love the way you said that. That was really beautiful. I love that you're thinking about, your students and how they're the knowledge, holders. And yeah, I really appreciate that. And that you brought up transfer students, because absolutely. It's so important that we're thinking about our transfer students, especially in the tribal college space too. Thinking about how many of our tribal colleges might be 2-year tribal colleges, and where the students are going, past that, if they're going to continue their education, or if they're going to go into the career space, their career readiness. It's important that we're thinking about the transfer experience and what that looks like, and if there are relationships being built um, with those colleges. Gabriella, go ahead.
Hi there, my name is Gabriela Salazar. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
Thank you. Shout out to our Northwest Indian College students and Joan. They're awesome. I wanted to chime in on this non-traditional student conversation, because as a tribal college, we have the majority of our students are non-traditional students, and I'm on the faculty end of what we're looking at here. And just as I don't remember who was just speaking. The dynamic of the classroom is incredible when we have intergenerational conversations. But one thing that I've noticed with non-traditional students is how to support them. And thankfully, we're a small sized college and we have wraparound resources for students to get extra support. But I think on the faculty end of things, and I know this is debatable among different different styles of teaching, but for my class, for example, um, I don't have a late work policy. I allow students to get full points regardless of if it's submitted a day late, 2 weeks late. It is challenging in terms of, if the class is scaffolded, we're building, building, building. But if the student can demonstrate they understand the material, they're learning and they're showing their growth, for me, in a pedagogical sense, like that for me is enough to be like, that's fine. I know you have a family to take care of, you have a full-time job. It's fine if you need more time for this task. But of course, I make sure they're gaining the knowledge in case it's, underperformance. I let them know like, hey, maybe digest it a little bit more. So that's the type of flexibility I feel that non-traditional students need because there's a lot of responsibilities that are outside of academia. Thank you for letting me share.
Thanks for sharing, Gabriella. And I have a follow-up question to that too. Like, I really appreciate that flexibility that you're able to give your students, your non-traditional students as well, or specifically. Do you ever get like a lot of pushback from like dean of academics or folks like that at your college, or how is that received, I guess?
Well, I'm grateful you're asking this question because we have been looking at the late work policy specific to each subject matter and how each instructor is a little bit different. So we're looking at it because there are, it comes back to each instructor's autonomy. So if there is an instructor that doesn't accept late work, that's, their own, that's how they work their class, and I'm totally in support of that. So we're looking at it, but I would say that as a whole, we understand the FYE experience, and therefore we're not reprimanded for having that type of late work policy or anything like that. We are asked just to monitor it and make sure that students aren't falling too far behind, because that could be an issue as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing. I know I think a lot every time we have these kind of conversations. I always think about my own family and what they experience. Like my sister often talks about how she had twins in her last year at the tribal college she attended, which was Oglala Lakota College, twin boys. And she often talks about how she would not have been able to finish if COVID and the virtual turning over to virtual learning did not happen. So being able to have that kind of flexibility for non-traditional students, I think, yeah, that's really important. So I just want to thank you again for mentioning all of that and how that is really key a lot of the time. Is there anybody else who would like to share in that area of the non-traditional students and kind of what their specific needs are and what you're thinking about?
Hey, this is Tracy Wilbur talking from College of Menominee Nation. I did have a quick
Tracy.
little comment talking about our non-traditional students. We have We have a lot of students, they work full-time and go to school part-time, and they're raising children or grandchildren. And one of some of our activities that we're offering, when I encourage them to attend, they're just so tired from the full day they already had that if they don't have classes that night, they would just rather go home and, relax. So I don't know how often we offer anything on the weekends, but I do know that some of them are just too tired to participate.
Yeah, so being able to be flexible in that weekend time, maybe. Or maybe even having activities that, are less tiring too, like a movie night might be good. One of the things that Sitting Bull College shared with me, actually, I think one of their custodians plans it, is like a movie night in their common area. And he like makes popcorn and stuff and just invites community members to come. And so they'll show a movie and folks will come. And so just having those kind of events too, like not super, will take a lot of energy out of you, but still a way to gather community with each other, creating that sense of belonging. The other questions I had planned for us, a lot of us, talk through talking about that post-COVID time, that sense of belonging, what kind of programs currently exist. I don't know if folks have any other things they want to share or questions. I'm just going to look through the chat. I see Crystal said, the non-traditional students I work with want it concise and straight to the point. Most students engage with are working full time, so during lunch hour we get engagement with them. That's a good solution. During a lunch hour, it might be a good time. Yeah, a lot of students, Alex said, it's difficult for students with that 2-year time frame because most of the students are looking to graduate as soon as they start the first week of classes. So how can we get them to buy into culture we're creating while ensuring they're achieving their own goals in that short time, right? So having culture kind of ingrained throughout their entire experience. Tracy, did you have another comment?
No, I do not know why that popped up. Sorry.
Okay, I'll lower your hand. Someone asked, is there any icebreakers or student activities other folks want to share? Alrighty, well, that's okay if folks don't have, oh, I see a big, okay, we got another one. I could add to Miss Salazar's late work flexibility. I also teach a first year experience course and accept late work, but I set the course up to no longer accept submissions after the due date so that students have to communicate with me. I figure out through their journeys they will experience different late work policies in their courses, but one common criteria will require communication with the instructor. If first year experience is meant to help students prepare for higher ed, I was worried about setting them up for failure by being too lenient. Yeah, I think that might be a Daniel, or sorry, your name's cut off on my Danielle. I'm sorry, Danielle. But yeah, I think that's like a good solution too, especially if you get pushback or things like that. You know, having to have that communication about why there's late work, or even if you have an early alert system set up with your college, being able to have that communication in about why there is late work coming in, I think that that could be an important solution to have. Jason said, when I was coaching students pursuing their high school equivalency diplomas, we had daycare for the children during the day, and at night, kids could have movies and have popcorn while parents studied and got work done. It was fun and they all felt like family. Oh, that's a great, I think that's a really great way to, you know, keep the children engaged so that the students can, you know, work towards their high school equivalency. As a class icebreaker on the first day, I have students choose a song and we watch the music video. They share why they chose that song and do self-introduction. Music speaks volumes. Absolutely. I love that icebreaker. Oh, and then the volume doesn't work for Marcella, so she was going to share. Pawnee Nation College is an emerging tribal college. Almost all of our students are non-traditional students, most with full-time jobs. We try to work traditions into our curriculum and have day and night classes. That's really awesome, Marcella. I'm excited to learn more about Pawnee Nation College. Well, thank you all for sharing so much more in the chat too. It's really good to hear all of the different activities and things that you're doing. Thank you for, you know, engaging in this roundtable discussion. I think we'll go ahead and end there. Adriana, I'll pass it back to you.
Yes, thank you, Autumn. Yeah, thank you everybody so much for engaging, and whether you're typing in the comments or coming off mic to respond. It's really amazing to hear of all of the ideas and feedback and responses and just advice sharing in all aspects of the symposium of this first session. So definitely keep that up. We love to see it. And yeah, I think a lot of us, no matter what stage or area or position we might be in higher education or secondary education, we have a lot of things that we can share amongst each other, and a lot of things and a lot of similarities that we see with our students and everything. So I really appreciate the conversations that are going, and definitely I think this morning session went really well. So but yes, thank you everybody. Thanks for again participating in the poll as well. I did put in the comments who the two winners were. I believe an individual from ACES and an individual from TOCC. So congrats, winner, winner, chicken dinner. So I will send you guys the gift cards through email, and we will have another option or another one in the afternoon as well. So don't be discouraged. You might have another chance to win a gift card, but definitely we will be coming back. We're going to go ahead and do a lunch break right now. So it'll be approximately an hour. So we're planning to come back around 1 p.m. Mountain Time. So that's, I shouldn't do the math in my head. That's 12 p.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Mountain, 2 p.m. Central, and 3 p.m. Eastern, just to kind of get everybody on board with that. But while we're on the topic of icebreakers, actually, I want to share this one that I like to use. And at the College Fund, we do a lot of virtual things. So just small little icebreakers like this is definitely good to utilize with your students. Can you see my screen? I don't see the highlight. Can you see the blob tree?
Yeah, it's kind of a small next to your face. I don't know how to change, or maybe it's my view.
Actually, you know what? I was finagling with something. Okay, now you should see it, right?
Yep.
So this is a blob tree I like to use. It works great with students because they don't have to identify solely with the blob that might look like them. It's literally just a blob. It also works with my high school staff that I work with too. But yeah, you can just, put this on the screen, maybe like when they're coming in, or have it on your wall, and just do like a temperature check. How are we feeling today? What's everybody's vibe? If anybody wants to put in the comments how they're feeling. Like I'm definitely feeling a number 10, feeling very stable. It's a Thursday. Thursdays are arguably my favorite days of the week because we're almost there to the weekend. But yeah, this is just something we can do to do a little temperature check to see how everybody's doing. But yes, definitely engagement is different on all levels as we work with our students, especially those who already have who already wear so many different hats and have so many things going on with their lives. So but yes, thank you all so much for attending this first session. Again, we're going to go ahead and break into the lunch hour. So we will come back here at 1 Mountain Time, and we will have our presentation with the University of South Dakota next. So please feel free to, again, stay on if you, or keep your Zoom on if you like. Again, I'm going to keep this on and just kind of, turn my camera and mic off, and we'll just have a transition slide so that you can come back to it. But if you'd like to, you can log off and then log back on at 1 o'clock Mountain Time again. So we'll do afternoon session with the University of South Dakota, another roundtable discussions with more topics, and then we will have our closing. So we will see you all in 1 hour. And again, please, we're going to have event evaluations for each session as well. So please scan this QR code. And if it doesn't work, I can also put the link in the chat too, just to, do the evaluation for the first session so we can share that with our relatives at the College of Menominee. And again, thank you both so much for sharing more about your programming. I really hope that people took notes and are motivated to continue to develop their first year programming if you're in that space. So yeah, we will go ahead and break for lunch, get, I don't know, go outside, stretch your legs, get something to eat, do something, make sure you're taking care of yourselves, and we will see you all here in the next hour. All right, hello everybody, welcome back to the afternoon session of the first year Experience Symposium. Again, my name is Adriana, and I also have Autumn White Eyes here with us. We are your co-hosts for this first year Experience Symposium. Again, this is our first time hosting it, and the morning session definitely was really meaningful and impactful. I really enjoyed hearing more about College of Menominee Nation's incentives and goals on developing their first year programming. So that was really fruitful, and I hope you all enjoyed that. And again, this is being recorded, so once the video is ready and edited, it'll be uploaded to our YouTube page, and we'll definitely send out an email with the link and stuff if you want to refer back to it. But yes, I hope you all had a good lunch break, got a chance to kind of stretch your legs here and there and stuff. Before we get started, let's go ahead and just do a quick overview again. Again, we had our morning session this morning with the College of Menominee Nation and had some really good roundtable discussions with some topics and advice shared amongst each other. And we definitely want to keep seeing that going, so feel free. We do have the chance to give you permission to come on mic. So in any instance, you can always raise your hand using the little raise hand icon on Zoom, and then we'll give you the permission to come off mic, and then you can speak if you have any questions or reflections or anything. And then we also have a Q&A feature on Zoom as well. That's also another good way to house the different questions that you might have, either for us or for the guest speakers. So sorry, I had pasta for lunch, and I'm like feeling really like warm and cozy right now, so I'm kind of tired. But yeah, feel free to use the different features on Zoom, and we'll do another roundtable discussions after the University of South Dakota does their presentation. And again, you can win prizes. So in the morning session, we did do a giveaway for the gift cards live. So we'll be opening another poll up to do those. And definitely, if you do complete the event evaluations as well, you are entered to win another set of various door prizes. So we have an Amazon Fire tablet and Sony headphones. And along with those first 15 who did register for the first year symposium, you are going to be getting a paperback copy of Academic Advising for First Year College Students. So really, really awesome. Those are all the different prizes that we got. just make sure that you're submitting your event evaluations afterwards. All right, so now let's go ahead and switch gears into our next afternoon session. So we have two amazing guest speakers here with us from the University of South Dakota that work both in the Native Student Services. So they're going to be sharing more about their programming with their first year program, along with the peer mentoring program. And it's nice that we have the duality of the two presenters that we had with College and Menominee Nation, talking about the development of their first year program and their goals and what they would like to see with that. And now we have University of South Dakota, who has a program established, and they're going to share more about that and give you all some informational tidbits and hopefully take notes and gain a lot out of this conversation. Please ask questions. Please definitely share your reactions and whatnot in the chats and everything. And again, we'll have the Q&A, and then we'll also have the discussions afterwards. If you want to, just put anything in the Q&A box or in the chat, we'll go back and look at those. But yeah, I don't want to take up too much more time, so I will go ahead and pass it over to Megan and Brooke. Let me stop sharing.
Thank you so much. We are so excited to be here today. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my side, make sure that you can all see that. Oh, wrong button. There we go. Is everybody able to see the presentation?
Yep, we can see it.
Great, awesome. First off, we just want to say thank you so much to American Indian College Fund. I want to give a special shout out to Autumn, who I've had the privilege of being friends with since we were in graduate school together, and just really honored that she invited our community to come and present, and very excited that I get to present with Brooke today, for whom I could not do the work that we do if it weren't for the ability that we've had to work together for the last 5 years. So we're really excited to be here together, and really excited that all of you are joining us from your different institutions. It was really awesome this morning to tune in to College of Menominee Nation and learn more about the things that they're hopeful for in the future. And today we're hopeful to give you a little bit of context about the history of our institution. I think it's important to acknowledge that obviously the University of South Dakota is not a tribal college. This is a 4-year public institution. And so some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, I think, are really fruitful for those of you that may be within college systems that are not predominantly Native led. And so that's just a really important consideration and distinction that I want to make before we get started talking about our programs. So just wanted to do a little bit of an overview for you about what we're going to be talking about today. So we'll talk a little bit about who we are as a team, as a division, and as an institution. Some of our principles of practice in the work that we do, and the things that we find to be really important for the community that we strive and aim to create here at USD. Talk to you a little bit about our vision, the history of USD, which I think also for many of our institutions, it's really important for us to acknowledge where we came from. And that sort of leads us into the future and the many Native people and allies that have pushed forward many of the initiatives that Brooke and I are able to be a part of today. We'll talk a little bit about first year opportunities. I know that's really sort of the focus of this program, is to talk about first year experiences, what's important to first year students. It's really cool because Brooke and I are actually tuning into you from the NAC, and on the other side of both of our doors, there are many of our first year students that are in the other rooms. So kind of feels cool that their energy is in our space and joining all of us today too. Then we'll talk a little bit about like our hope for the future, share our contact information with you, and then say, Wopila or Pilamaye, thank you for coming and being a part of our community today. So that's just an overview of what the afternoon will look like. So I'll first introduce myself. Michajiki Megan Redshirt Shaw, Lokol Michajiki Chanko Ashtanwi, Wazia Hanaha He Mataha Malakota. My name is Megan Redshirt Shaw. I am an enrolled member of the Oglala Sioux tribe. My grandfather is also from Rosebud, so I'm Sichanghu and Lakota and Oglala. And I currently am the Director of Native Student Services at the University of South Dakota. I have been in this role since October of 2020 and just have been tremendously lucky to be part of an incredible team, of whom we'll talk a little bit more about today. My educational background, I did my undergraduate at the University of Pennsylvania, which is where this photograph was from. I did my master's with Autumn at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. And this year I'm completing my PhD at the University of Minnesota. And I actually am writing my dissertation about our living learning community, which is what we will be talking about today. And it's been a privilege and a joy to learn more about belonging and really be able to dive into that literature this year. So I will turn it over to Brooke to introduce herself.
Hello. Sorry, my mouse was on a different screen. So my name is Brooke Jackson, and I'm the coordinator of Native Student Services. I've been at Native Student Services, except for one semester, since 2019. And my educational background is I went to the University of Nevada, Reno for my undergraduate in speech pathology and audiology. And then I came to the University of South Dakota originally to get a doctorate in audiology and ended up with a master's of interdisciplinary studies where I took audiology courses and combined them with nonprofit management courses. And that's how I got my degree. And I've been in this position. I was the graduate assistant while I was in graduate school, and now I am the coordinator. I've been in this position since January of 2023. And I was honored into the Students' Tioche Bay in January 2021.
Awesome. Thank you, Brooke. So just to give you a little bit of an overview, and again, it's important for me to acknowledge that I have only ever been in this position, save for one semester with Brooke. So Brooke and I have been a true team since I started in 2020, and truly is just, I love our team and I love the work that we get to do. So I feel very lucky that we've been able to learn more about our division and build our division and really be so influenced by many of the things that happened before Brooke and I were on campus as well. So just to give you like a little bit of an overview about our division in particular, we really aim to provide unique opportunities for Native American students by finding the answers that they need, people to relate to, and support for student futures. And really the sort of core piece of our division that we often will share with a lot of different offices is that we really want to serve as connectors. So we want to be the people that perhaps the Native American Cultural Center and our office and the people that we work with are the thing that students feel rooted to. But if it's not us, maybe they identified as Native on their application, but it's not the most important part of their identity. There are other things that they want to explore in college. Brooke and myself and the team that we work with really want to be the people that are helping students discover what is that thing that is really important to me. And really the time that they do this is in their very first year of college, their first semester, their first year. So many of them are coming in, maybe having an idea of what they want to study. They had particular interests when they were in high school. They're trying to think about how those things apply to what they're learning in college, but they're also getting completely sort of overwhelmed with information, how to be a brand new student on a college campus, how to manage their time, what it looks like to have a schedule that's completely and entirely different from high school. So for us, we really just want to serve as a space for students to feel like they can talk through these things with us, that we can serve as mentors if that's the thing that they're looking for, but also if they are wanting to be connected to other types of mentorship on campus, that we are the people that are connecting them those places. So we do a lot of social, cultural, and community relevant programming. And we're very lucky on campus to have that support of being our own standalone division that serves Native students specifically. We have more than 330 Native students within USD's sort of diaspora. That includes here in Vermilion, Sioux Falls, and in the virtual space as well. So again, we think a lot about how are we sort of crossing over between things that are in person, things that are virtual, making sure that we're serving students where they're at as well. So that's a little bit about our division. And I think it's important to sort of root what are our principles of our practice. So this is a shot of the inside of the Native American Cultural Center. I actually took this photo right before we all went away on holiday break. It's sort of those times when you really miss the students, right? They have to go home and rest. They have to go home and be with their families. But it was this really kind of like peaceful moment of reflecting about the physical space that we're in and how our practice applies to the things that we do. So we try really hard to practice kindness to all students. To really center the things that we plan for students in community and creating and building community for them. We want to be rooted in empathy and an understanding that, you know, students have hard days. They need spaces to cry. They need spaces to laugh hysterically. What are the empathetic things that we're doing as people that are there for them to make them feel like they can relax, right? And feel like somebody really cares for them on campus. Because in so many of these first year experience practices, it's about making sure the students know that they feel anchored to somebody and that somebody cares about them. We practice acceptance. What we know, all of us in working with Native students, is that Native identity is a spectrum. There are going to be students that come to college and they're very rooted in who they are, and they know who they are, and they know about their culture. But there are going to be other students that come to college, they identify as Native, but they never had the opportunity to learn more about that part of themselves. And they're at college and they're hopeful that this is going to be an opportunity for them to be rooted in understanding a little bit more about their identity. So we strive very, very hard to create a space where students are not policing each other right on their identity or the way that they feel about themselves. That understanding, meeting people where they're at, and then much of what was talked about in this morning's presentation, right? This concept around belonging and making sure that, especially on our campus, which is a predominantly white institution, which is a four-year public, making sure that at every turn we're reminding students that they belong at USD, that we have a long history and that we have a rich legacy of Native student success here. And so those are some of the principles of our practice as practitioners. And that really applies to our history as an institution. So obviously there's a much larger timeline of this. I started in '88 only because that's the founding of the Native American Cultural Center here. But it actually extends all the way back to '57 for our institution, which is when our first Native student organization was founded. It is now called Tioshbaya Student Council. At the time, it was called Wapaha Club. But I started in the '80s on this timeline. There's so many other important things that could be included. We could be here for an entire afternoon talking about this timeline. But really the foundation of our division in particular is the founding of the Native American Cultural Center, which has been in the same building that since '88. And then in the '90s, Native Student Services, our division, began. Wowokia Peer Mentors began, which is something that we're going to talk about today, which is integrated into the first year experience. Around 2009, our Native Student Advisor position began, which has been a critical retention tool for our students to have someone specifically in advising that supports them. Then since mine and Brooke's time, these are a couple of our sort of highlights of things that have started here. Our Wiyushkia Umpitipi Living Learning Community was founded in 2021. A new position called the Director of Native Recruitment and Alumni Engagement starts, which I'll talk a little bit about more later. In 2022, we revamped our orientation program for first-year students and combined it with other campus partners, which we will also talk about today, called Early Scholars Program. And then excitingly, in 2023, Brooke's position, the Native Student Services Coordinator, was fully funded as a full-time position. We share this history and these sort of cornerstone points with you as really important moments for first-year student experiences at USD, and as maybe a model for some of your institutions to think about particular positions or programs that may be really fruitful for the first-year students that you serve. It's important for us to note that obviously, like, this is not a one-size-fits-all, right, timeline. If you look at the creation of the Cultural Center versus when we actually moved to having certain positions fully funded full-time, right? There are a lot of arguments that could be made that maybe things could have been quicker or maybe things could have happened in a different order. But we show you this as sort of just an overview of where we began and where we're going. And again, many people contributed to the ability for Brooke and I to have the roles that we have today. So we want to honor them. We want to acknowledge the rich legacy of Native alumni who pushed University of South Dakota to be better for Native students. We still have a long way to go. Every day we are chipping away a little bit more at what that looks like. But this gives you just a little bit of an idea of some of the things that we've had that we're very proud of. So it's important for me to first ground us in physical space. As was talked a lot about this morning, this idea of our practices being rooted in space and being rooted in our physical locations and being rooted in the earth is really, really important. And to me, on our campus, there is no place that is more special than the NAC because of the number of people that have come through these doors, the number of community gatherings that we've hosted, the multifaceted sort of dynamic of the space and the things that we're able to do, the artwork on the walls. There are just so many things that make this place special. And for many of our first year students, this is their very first introduction to USD. They come on a campus tour, either individually or with their high school. And this is the place that we really want to highlight and advocate for students. For those of us that are coming from four-year publics, we know that Native American cultural centers are very special places. So for any of us that are able to have a physical space, we truly do not take that for granted. And so for us, this is located at 409 East Clark Street. You can see Brooke and I took this photo at the beginning of orientation this year. And you can see on the other frame that this is what the inside of the space looks like. So we've been very concerted and targeted with making sure that we have a lot of lounge space for students. So a lot of different couches, chairs. You can see on the far right side that there are huge bean bags that are in our physical space, which there are many naps. There's a student out there right now that's taking a nap. And then all the way to the back of the building, you can see that there is a kitchen space and then a study space with tables as well. We do have a computer lab, which something that is actually, it sounds really silly when we're saying it to students when they come to visit our campus, but having a computer lab with free printing is a big deal, especially for our students that are on federal financial aid, especially for our students that qualify for work study or our first generation to college. Even just not having to navigate a complex system like paying for printing, right, can make a world of difference for students. So we are one of the only spaces on campus, apart from Trio, that actually has a computer lab with free printing. Again, full kitchen, cable TV, not as cool as it used to be. But we do have cable TV if students want to use it. A lot of times they're, streaming or otherwise. And then those couches, beanbags, and study space. We do offer a work study program at the Native American Cultural Center, which I also think for the first year experience is critically important if your campus does have opportunity for work study positions. Many of our work study students identify as first year students. It's a really easy way for them to get folded into the community. It's an easy way for them to have an opportunity to just naturally be in a space with their peers. What we see so often with first year students is them, right, trying to reach out and try to figure out who their friend group is going to be. And we've seen often that through becoming a part of the work study program, you naturally are staffed on certain shifts with your peers. And so being able to see that they're becoming friends through those shifts, through having to do tasks together that we ask them to do, through making sure that they've gone through the checklist of responsibilities, right? Really good experience for first year students. And also from a first year sort of mindset, students maybe had jobs back home, but for some, this may be the very first opportunity that they have to be focused on sort of like, what does this look like for my future career? How do I apply the skill set that I get here at the NAC to things that I hope to do in the future? So for first year students, we feel like work study is a really good opportunity. And then just through the physical space, we host a variety of programming and speakers. And then another thing that we're really focused on is tracking utilization data of the NAC. This is a big priority for our institution. So we actually have a data tracking system that Brooke oversees that will tell us how many times a student comes in and out of the NAC, how many hours they spend at the NAC, and then a tracking system that actually breaks down the reasons that they come to the cultural center. So could be for work study, could be for hanging out, could be for a program, or for a particular study, a particular student organization that they're a part of. So that's been really nice for us to be able to kind of see an overview of why students decide to come to this space and what they're using the physical space for. So it's also important in thinking about first year retention to think about who your Native retention team is. So myself and Brooke are part of this team, but we also have 2 additional members who serve as really core teammates and friends and colleagues who do this work with us as well. The first is Dr. John Little, who is the Director of Native Recruitment and Alumni Engagement. This is actually a position that John proposed to the university. So he oversees every incoming student to the university and then maintains relationships with all of our Native alumni. So we have about 1,200 Native alumni who have graduated from USD. The dual sort of service of his role is very beginning of college and after college. And we've actually seen that it's been a really, really nice sort of connecting bookend piece to a lot of the work that Brooke and I do within Native Student Services. But for that first year retention, for that first year recruitment, John is really the person that contacts students after they've decided that USD is going to be the right fit for them to attend. And then he helps them with scholarships. He helps them finish their financial aid. He helps them learn more about the opportunities that we have. And we have seen this as a critically important new role for first year retention and also first year engagement as well. So we're very, very grateful at the creation of this role. And is something definitely that we recommend other institutions to think about. And if anybody ever wants to talk to him about the creation of that role and the advocacy that took place for the institution to support it, we're more than happy to do that. And then really sort of engaging that piece of Native alumni back to current students, bringing them back to campus, and also allowing our first year and upperclassmen to be able to learn from alumni and the things that they've experienced as well as a healing process, right? We have Native alumni who unfortunately did not have good experiences at USD, and that's important for us to acknowledge about our institutions. Being able to have somebody who specifically focuses on alumni engagement, bringing them back to campus, being able to at least start that healing process for them has been really, really important. The other member of our Native retention team is Juliana Benj, who's been a fantastic resource for students. She is our Native American advisor. So that's the position that was started around 2009. She's the person that oversees all Native students in what classes they're going to take, what their academic programs look like. And she's just been a fantastic team member as well in really getting Native students to think about their course pathways, think about why the classes that they're taking are the classes that they want to be taking. Many of our students come to college and they only have a handful of particular careers that they feel like are feasible for them. But through having a Native student advisor, the doors are open for them, right? To think about the different types of pathways they can take and what they're learning academically and how that applies. So again, myself, Brooke, John, Juliana, we're really lucky to be a really incredible team of friends and people who really are in community with each other. And so this retention team idea for first year students, especially being able to build out a team and have those resources has been wonderful. Something that I think is really important for us to think about as we do this work, all of us in thinking about first year retention, is to talk a little bit about federal data. So as many of us know, what we are reporting to NCES is the students that mark the Native box, right? And only the Native box, not multiple racial categories. Even though we understand that being Native is a sovereignty status and is a different categorization for Native people in the way that we think about ourselves. But in that NCES data set, typically what's being sent and what is being tracked publicly by the university are students that only check Native. Identity is fluid. It's on that spectrum, right? So we have students that identify with multiple racial categories, or we have students that are trying to figure out where their place is within identifying as a Native person. So this data set that's being represented by the institution, or that often is being represented for the way that our budgets are structured, is not actually representative of the number of students that we serve, as we all know. So for our team, we actually have worked with the university to create an internal tracking system so that we can accurately represent our student population. which is in fact about double from what is reported to NCES. So I bring this up because I think it's really fruitful for us to think about, particularly those of us that are not working within a tribal college system, but perhaps a four-year PWI. I think it's really, really important for us to think about how we're finding those first-year students and the extra steps that sometimes we have to take to parse out multiracial data to determine who checked Native in another identifier, or how do we sort of market ourselves to make sure that we are sort of reaching to as broad of a swath of students as we possibly can. And the more that our tribal nations change, the more that we open up our possibility, open up our own minds and our hearts to the idea that identity is going to continue to change and be more complex. Higher education has to respond to these things, right? And so in John creating this data set, it's made us be able to really understand the student population that we serve, and also challenge the institution to think about Native identity in a more complex way. So we're very, very grateful to have that internal support. We wish that that's what could be reported out to the greater population. But again, small steps, right? And things that I think we have to continue to challenge our own minds to, and also the institutions that we work for as well. So we're going to start talking a little bit about our first year opportunities. We are going to open up at the end for some questions. So I apologize that I didn't clarify that at the very beginning. So we'll talk a little bit about the first year programs that we offer. And at the end, again, if you have any questions, we're happy to fulfill those then. So for our first sort of in the timeline first year opportunity, we do have an orientation program that is called the Early Scholars Program. There has been a Native student orientation that has existed historically in the past, but the difference between just a Native student orientation and Early Scholars Program is that for the last 3 years, we have decided to combine our orientation program with TRIO and with the Office of Multicultural Affairs. So these are two very strong campus partners that we have at USD who work with many of the students that we work with. But our idea was that we're broadening the scope of the number of students that we serve so that students have an opportunity to engage with a larger set of peers. So while there are a lot of sort of things that are tailored to what is it like to be Native in college, the majority of the things that we're talking about or that we're sharing are first generation lens tailored. So we approach all of the things that we present from a first generation lens. It doesn't matter if all of the students that we're serving or not identify as first generation, but this is a really, really important thing to think about when we think about first year work. My belief is that every college, and Brooke and I have had many conversations about this, our belief is that everything that we do should be from a first generation lens. That makes college more accessible for every student that we work with, right? So defining acronyms, making sure that students understand what office hours are. If you think about high school students, a lot of times when they were going to a teacher's office, it was because they were in trouble. If we reframework it to teach them, right, office hours are when you go and you have the opportunity to ask for help, right, and get ahead in your classes. Even those little tiny things, those little tiny tweaks of defining financial aid, defining financial management of finances, right, defining how they get to their classes. We actually have a segment of this program where we literally have their peers, who are upperclassmen that are counselors in the program, walk them to each of their classrooms. So they have a whole tailored out schedule. They walk them to each of their buildings, point out where the building is, right? So this idea that for any orientation program that we're doing, we're approaching it from a first generation lens, makes it more accessible for every student that we're working with. So students come and move 3 days early. They meet other Native students, but other students just generally, and have an opportunity to tour the campus. They learn strategies and skills to be successful in college. And then everything is covered financially. So all meals are covered. We actually pay for their early move-in fees, but the requirement is that they have to attend all programming. So this is a really great opportunity. This photograph is actually of our first year students this past year, as well as the peer mentors. We had a huge group volunteer this past year just to come and hang out with the first year students. So that role modeling idea for first years, to be able to see, oh, these are other students that look like me or other students that have experiences like me, being able to have them see that as their very, very first introduction to college, move in a little bit early, avoid the chaos of regular move-in, is really powerful. And we've seen it grow every year, which has been wonderful. We love working with TRIO. We love working with the Office of Multicultural Affairs. Just being able to, again, be those connectors and make sure that they're building out their larger network of support on campus has been really important. And we've seen a lot of really positive things that have happened from that as well. So this is our first year opportunity for students. The next one that I want to talk a little bit about before I turn it over to Brooke is we do have a first year experience class. So some of the questions that were actually being asked in the chat earlier this morning were about first year experience classes that are being taught at sort of larger four-year institutions. Our FYE is the only sort of Native focused specific FYE, but there are a number of different first year experience classes that are taught. So I'm very lucky to teach this class with Juliana, the Native Student Advisor, and it is called Connecting Cultures First Year Experience. It was started prior to us, and it has been a class that is really focused on students coming into college with Native identity and how do we sort of connect our own cultural identities with Western knowledge systems. So we talk a lot about culture and continuing to be culturally grounded. We lead a session, actually, we'll bring 2 community elders in who will talk to the students about grounding themselves culturally. We'll lead a prayer for them, which students always really enjoy. We'll do breathing activities and breathing exercises. We go on a tour of Vermilion, which is where USD is located. So this actually was from our tour. It's really cool to look at the photo and think about all of the kind of places that they've sort of, I don't know, just seeing their progression of their feelings about themselves and their confidence. It's really cool to look at this photo and then think about them now. So from our first year experience to this fall from the fall into the spring, 16 of our 19 students returned to spring semester, but the 3 students that did not return, we were able to have conversations with them about those choices and about actually having a really strong understanding of why they decided not to return to USD. And I think for the first year work that we do, that's also really important. So understanding why students decide not to return, why students are engaged in the things that they're engaged with. And a lot of times, you know, life happens and they're leaving for reasons that are important to them, right? And so never invalidating that the things that they choose for themselves are important. So that's something that I also want to highlight in working with first year students as well. So my portion of the presentation is done, but I am going to now turn it over to Brooke to wrap up the second half of our presentation.
Hello again. Megan's gonna have to flip through the slides for me since it's on her computer, so right. We can go to the next one. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is that we have a really amazing program called Iwanchiechi Peer Mentoring Program. It originally started as the Wowokia Peer Mentoring Program in the 1990s, and it means to help or to be a helper, supporter, and it was mainly for STEM students, so students who are in science, technology, engineering, math, and not so much for like art. But since USD is a liberal arts school, they started to change it, and now anybody with any major can be in the program. And it's currently run by graduate student Colette Bowman, who's been in charge of it for about 2.5 years. And they have a mentor log that they're supposed to meet. So we have 5 mentors right now, and they get paid $500 over the course of the whole year to be a mentor to 2 students who were in the Early Scholars program. So we connect those students with students who are already connected to campus. Some of them happen to be the mentors from the Early Scholars program, but some of them are not. And there are other students on campus who are just really knowledgeable with like being in college and being in a certain major or being in a certain field of internship that they want to go to. But they're supposed to meet 8 times a month, and only one of those times is absolutely required to be in person, and the other 7 can be virtual or in person. It's really up to each mentor and mentee. And then they get paid every month. It's grant funded, and I'm not entirely sure how it was funded before the Howard Hughes Medical Institute grant, but there was grant funding, and now there's a new grant that pays for it. And I don't know the name of that grant, so I apologize for that one. But it's a really good program, and students come back year after year. We've had students who are in it who are now mentors, and they're in graduate school who are being mentees to people who were in their position 5 years ago. So that's really exciting. And it's just been really helpful for a lot of our students to be involved and understand that like they can be in it. Obviously this is the old brochure, but I wanted to show you guys some information about like where it existed from. You can go to the next one. Okay. Oh wait, can we go back? I just remembered something. Something else with Iwancienchi is that how they're originally paired is we try to pair based on their major. So if they have a similar major or a similar minor, we want to connect them with someone who's in that same major or minor so they can get some advice about like professors and classes and what order and like understand like what kind of professors are the ones they should be interacting with and like are going to support them, and the ones who they might need to get a little bit more guidance from other people. Okay. And then the next slide, this slide's about our Native student groups. So we used to have about 10 student groups that were specifically like Native run student groups. But our oldest one is the Teospe Student Council, as Megan said earlier, formerly the Wapaha Club. And they have the longest running Wachipi in the state of South Dakota in higher ed. So they're having their 51st Wachipi this year. And the picture on the right is a picture of the Teospe board from last year. And the one in the bluish tealish dress, she just graduated. And then 3 of them are still back in this year. So, and then like 3 years ago is when the American Indian Science and Engineering Society for the Advancement of Chicanos, Hispanics, and Native Americans in Science started. It was started by both Juliana Benj when she was a student and another student who's graduated. And they primarily focus on like getting perspectives from Native or Hispanic people in fields that students are interested in. So like PT or med school or PA school or psychology, clinical psych. And then we have Nations, which is a national organization, and it deals with Christian spirituality and Christian religion and Native American spirituality and how they're the same and different and interact in the ways of today. And then we have a USD drum group. It's not as active this year, but it's called the Shumai Tuayate Polka. And it was started by a student who's coming back to law school in the fall. So that's really exciting because he's going to come back. And then we're starting a hand games org. And then we have a lot of students who are first gen students who are also first year students who are in the first generation student organization. We have a student who just got into campus activities board, and that's like the big student org that does a lot of the bigger events on campus, like campus concerts or like talent shows. And then we have a lot of students who also identify as Latin or Hispanic. So we have a lot of students involved in Latin American Hispanic student organization as well. And ACES SACMIS used to get money from the same grant as Iwancienchi to go to the national conference. So we had students who got to like Puerto Rico. And then, so then next in the 2021 is when Iwanchi, we Ushkanen UPTP Living Learning Community started, and it was named by Megan's Ina or her mom. And it roughly translates to where they live contently in Lakota. It's on the brand new renovated floor of one of our buildings at USD, and the students got to pick where they lived, so they picked that floor. And if they participate in 11 of the 14 programs throughout each semester, so 22 programs a year, they qualify for a half housing scholarship, which is equivalent to about half of what it costs to live in Richardson. And they only get it if they live on campus, but it helps a lot because it cuts their bill in half. And we usually have our programmings on Wednesdays. Sometimes that changes, but typically it's Wednesday. And we have guest speakers, movie nights, game nights, or the picture on the right is actually our Living Learning Communities Encouragement Dinner last fall when it was in the ballroom. Here at the university and above them is all the tribal nations, well, majority of them because they didn't all fit in the picture, but a lot of the tribal nations that we have represented at the University of South Dakota. And then we started with 48 students this year, which was our biggest LLC community that we've ever had. And now 44 came back in the spring, which is really exciting. And they're doing really well and they all want to be involved in here and like doing things on campus. So it's very exciting that they're doing all those things. And then if we go to the next slide. So I put some pictures of different events that we've done for our Wiyushkinanu PTP. On the left is a picture of the LLC students with Dr. Jessica Hernandez, who is an indigenous ecologist from the Global South, and she is currently in Africa doing research. So she's working on decolonization efforts in Africa, which I think is really interesting. And then on the right is Anthony Anaya Gorman, who is Navajo, and he came to talk to the students about how his grandpa, Dr. Carl N. Gorman, was the oldest pilot who devised the original Navajo code that code talkers used in World War. And then so students got to meet them and take pictures and get like their books signed. And then in this one is where we sold books, and it's Stephen Graham Jones in the back row. And they got to talk to him about what got him interested in writing, how did he pick his genre. They took pictures with him. We bought some of his books, and the students got to have their books signed or ask questions. And he read some of his work that he hasn't published yet that he was trying to get people interested in. So we've had a lot of opportunities to have really interesting people come to the campus and be involved with our students, and for students to see themselves in these careers. With Stephen Graham Jones, we also had a really great opportunity to where South Dakota State University, which is 2 hours north of us, got to come down and visit with him too, and they're on the right side of the picture. So they got to hear from him, and we like to partner with them a lot because we're trying to serve the same purpose. So why not work with other people who are trying to do the same purpose as you, and work with students who may switch different schools depending on their major. So we just thought that was really important. And then I got one more picture from an LLC because I thought this was also really awesome. So in this picture, it's Megan. And then it's Rashina Nash and Tazba Chavez, who are writers in Hollywood. And Tazba Chavez is a writer for Res Dogs. And she was really down to earth and very nice. And she had really positive things to say. And we had the journalism school come in, and it was one of our most well-attended events that we've ever had. And students really wanted to get to know them and figure out what kind of steps they have to take to get to where they want to be in writing. So yes. And then something else is with the Teal Space Student Council, we have a really great opportunity where first year students are able to also participate in planning the annual Wachipi and volunteering. So this was from the 50th this past year, and it has a student who was on the Wachipi board holding the Eagle staff in the front. And then we have, for the first grant entry, we get faculty and staff from across campus to sign up, and then they all get announced and get to walk in grant entry of the first grant entry of the Wachipi. And it's been hosted by Teal Space Student Council all 50 years. It's student run, student led, everything is with the students, and then we just help them. It's also free and open to the public, and we're having the 51st this year, and the dates are on there. So if you have any interest in learning more about it, we also have a website. So And then something that started 4 years ago was the Native Heritage Day game. And what it does is it brings Native students from all over the state and different high schools to the campus for an admissions program. Where then, if they stay for the admissions program, they get free tickets to the basketball game and a free lunch. So we have a really cool opportunity when they come to campus where we have a student panel and we ask students who either participated in the Native Heritage Day Admissions Day or are grad students or attended USD like 10 years ago come and they like talk about what their experience was like as a student and things that they really enjoyed about USD, things that could be better. And also like what kind of things they were involved in so students can see like the vast variety of ways that you can explore your own identity and like who you are. Something that was really exciting with this is that it's grown a lot. So the first 2 years was really focused around Mason Archambault, which is in the middle of the top 3 pictures. And then Aspen Williston started at USD from Oklahoma, and then she stayed for 2 years. And then once she left and graduated, we had the lovely Tori DePerry get to come to USD. And now Tori and Aspen both play professionally and were very involved in like Teoshbe and like interacting with the students when they came to the Native Heritage game. So they got to see like what could be possible for them if they wanted to go D1. So, and then this year we had Jackie Bird and the Sampson Brothers as the halftime show. And we had a banquet the night before where the high schoolers got to interact with them and got to hear from them and watch them dance and hear about their experiences. And that was really, I just think it's all really cool because we also get to experience it. So we get to see it from like their perspective because they like talk to us about it. And then some additional Native resources that we have are, we have a scholarship called the Uliot Scholarship. It's worth $5,000 a year for 4 years. So that's like our biggest scholarship that we offer to first-year students coming in. And then Megan's actually on that committee and they interview every single person who applies to that scholarship. And then they have honorable mentions as well. So even if you don't win the 5,000, you could still win some kind of amount. And then we also have some other smaller Native scholarships and we have the national scholarships. Something else that we have sometimes at the NAC, but usually American Indian Studies has it. They do weekly cultural workshops either in their space or in our space. And we do beading, beading 101, grad cap beading, ribbon skirt workshops. We do career workshops. We talk about like what kind of clothes you should wear for career workshops and like when you go to interviews. And yes. And then some of our hopes for the future are right now we're in a capital campaign to get a new Native American Cultural Center. We love our space and we want it to stay, but it's very old and there's a lot of things that are gonna go wrong and we've had a leak in the back forever. And it just is so interesting. So it would be nice to have, you know, a building that might not flood one day. And then we're also trying to secure more like permanent funding for the Wiyushkin and Oompi Teepee Living Learning Community in Wanchietchi because we just don't know when that funding is going to end and we don't have a secure funding method for Wiyushkin and Oompi Teepee right now. We're very lucky to have some people who really care about our students and are donating money, but that won't necessarily last forever. And then we would like a larger team because there's more students and there's only 2 of us, plus like the main Native Student Services and then Juliana and John. It would be helpful if we had more people to help support the growing number of students that we have because we only have so much time in our day that we can do things with. And if 300 students are coming knocking on our door, we probably don't have enough time to talk to all 300 students that day, but we will do our absolute best to talk to all 300 students that day. And then this is our contact information. We have Facebook and Instagram that we are very active on. And we post pretty much, if you follow the Facebook, it's the same information as the Instagram, but it's very exciting. And Megan makes really good captions. And we thank you so much for listening to our presentation. And we are really looking forward to working together with any of you or answering any questions you have.
And we're happy to answer if there are any questions. We're happy to answer from any folks that are on the call.
Also, just a little shout out. My mom is on this call. She registered for it because I've never done like a national thing like this. So she's very excited. So just hello, Mom.
Hello, Mom. Yes, any questions, feel free to put it in the chat, or if you want to utilize the Q&A function, or if you'd like to verbally ask your question, you can raise your hand and we can bring your mic up.
Yes, thank you all for this really awesome presentation. I really appreciate it. Just hearing all of the amazing work you're doing with Native students. I actually had a couple of questions, so I'll get started with the questions as folks are thinking through their questions too. So one of the questions I had is about your mentorship program, and the training aspect of that when working with peer mentors. Is there a training program, a mentor manual, or how do you prepare the students to be peer mentors? Yeah, for the first year students.
That's a great question that I definitely should have addressed now that I'm thinking about it, because I was actually the coordinator before. So there is a handbook that all of the mentors are required to read, and then they have contracts at the very end that there's certain things that they agree to do and not do with their mentee, like things that you should not be doing at like 2 a.m. Probably shouldn't be doing those things. So they sign to make sure that they don't do them. And then if they do them, then we have to obviously have a talking to. But they do a 1-hour training at the very beginning of the semester. And then they get follow up with Colette about once a month to make sure that they're following through, not only with their hours, but with their contracts and making sure they're getting signed and turned in.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And then another question that I had was, how do you choose speakers for those events that you talked about with the learning living community? And do you ever get evaluations or feedback from students about, like, we really enjoyed that, we want to see this type of speaker, or things like that? Or how do you get student feedback, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we try really hard to kind of diversify the portfolio of who we're bringing. And so all of us will really kind of brainstorm about what has been represented versus what hasn't been represented in the past. One thing that I think, especially so USD, we predominantly are working with the 9 federally recognized tribes in the state of South Dakota, and then Winnebago and Omaha are actually the closest tribal nations to us. So we try to also be really mindful about the tribal representation that we're bringing to campus. So trying to think about, obviously, representing the communities that are here on campus and bringing people that role model for them, but also just diversifying sort of the portfolio of who's coming. So students will give us suggestions. We have in the past done sort of feedback forms from them. So at the end of the semester, sending them a feedback form to ask them, what were some of your favorite speakers that you have? We do that in our first year experience course too, which was actually really fruitful this year. Juliana and I created a form and sent it to the students, and they actually submitted feedback to us about what they liked and they didn't like. It's really interesting to hear student feedback because some of them are on one end of the spectrum and some of them are on the other, right? So always taking some of that with a grain of salt about their lived experiences too. But we try really hard to ask students what they're interested in, to tailor speakers to interests that are within the class. Data tracking and feedback tracking is something that we this year have been more mindful of, as it's been a high priority for our division. We're under the Division of Student Services, and this is something that they're really looking at. They actually have created a tracking system where they're going to be able to map out all of the different things that students are engaged with across campus, which is really cool. So we're going to be able to sort of have this rich, dynamic snapshot of what our students are doing on campus. So we're excited to see that as well. But always room for improvement, always room for asking students more questions. For us too, it's just about really bringing in positive representation. And we hear often that it's really nice for them to see different types of careers represented so that they can see themselves, see the possibilities for themselves too.
One other thing that we do is we will ask students like if there's someone they want to see or bring from their own communities to campus too. So sometimes we'll ask them that, like, but if they don't have any suggestions at the beginning of a semester, we'll ask again, like later on, and consider those people for either the spring semester or the following fall. Or we find someone who we think is really like important to bring and then they come.
Well, thank you for sharing. I think there's some questions in the chat now. Let's see. Colette Keith, hi Colette, asked, we're looking at advising models from other tribal schools. Is there good resources that any of you could suggest or could talk briefly about how registration works at your school?
I know very little about how registration works, besides that we have a coyote visit days during the summer or coyote registration days where they sign up for a specific day and time. They either can do it virtually or they can come in person and meet with an advisor. It may not be the native advisor, it may be a different advisor, but then they talk through like their major and like what classes they need right away versus what classes they can kind of like push off into the spring to like still stay on track. But they basically just like sign up for a time once they get in and they just pick. That would be a good question if Juliana was in here.
We have a platform that actually is like an advising focused platform, and it's called Coyote Connections for us. We're the coyotes, by the way. We keep talking about coyotes. We're the coyotes. So we have a platform called Coyote Connections, and it's much like any kind of advising platform. So actually, Brooke and I, our division actually has access to that platform, which is really helpful. But one of the things that advising that Juliana is able to do is she can actually send out campaigns to all the Native students. So personalized text messages, personalized emails, requests to meet, that type of stuff. And so even if they don't meet with her at those coyote registration days that Brooke talked about a little bit, she is very committed to making contact with them once they're on campus. Our Native student advising position is unique in that it is an advising role that's on top of other advising that students may have. So Juliana's role is actually very unique in that she has to know everything about every single program at the school. So all the other advisors are very specific to like nursing or particular majors. And our Native student advisor position is very, very vast, which is amazing for students to be able to have that additional support. So one thing that I may just recommend is looking at how different schools that have that Native student advising position, how that is sort of worked into student engagement. For the upperclassmen, obviously, the first year, having the Native student advisor is critical, I think, for Native student success in the first year. Once they get into their higher upperclassmen years, obviously, they start to sort of be divided by major or divided by what they're studying. So it would just be interesting to kind of look at like schools that you whose models you feel like are working and how their Native student role in particular is kind of modeled. Because ours is a little bit different, and we're always happy to put you in contact with our team too if you want to talk more about that.
Thank you guys. And then Trisha Roy asked, what is the academic success rate for students who moved in early? Do you have any of that data?
That's a good question. We unfortunately do not have that data. We do track the students that participate in our orientation programs. The sort of strongest data set we have is through the living learning community. We unfortunately don't have the data specifically about early move-in, but that's a really good question and something that we'll look into. And it is it is really awesome for students. They just get an opportunity to get a little bit more acclimated to campus. I think early move-in programs are really valuable. I did one when I was an undergraduate where I actually went 5 weeks early to college and took math. I wish every school could do that for students. Obviously, resources, funding, figuring out all of that stuff. But I'm a huge advocate for early move-in bridge programs for students. I think they can make a world of difference.
And then I see another question about how we pay for speakers in hotels or fees. So we have like NSS has its own budget that we're able to put towards different speakers and events, but we also partner with a lot of people on campus, and we have very generous donors right now who have been very supportive of our programming. And I don't know how much I can say about that because Megan knows more about it. But
Yeah, we've worked really hard to create strong relationships with community partners and advocated for our own funding sources, which has been very, as Brooke said, very generous. We're really grateful for those. The other opportunity that we've had is we actually, for the last 3 years, have applied for a grant with our K-12 system in Vermilion, which is it's an invited opportunity. And so we partner a lot actually with K-12 here in our town, and that's with the Native families and the Title VI coordinator, whose name is Paisley Sierra. And so that's been another wonderful partnership. But we are very mindful about budgeting for speakers, and also our team takes very seriously paying people what they're worth and what their time is worth. And so we work really hard to make sure that that's a priority for us as well. Beyond sort of upkeep of the NAC. Yesterday I did a huge chip run, right? So all of the little things, all the snacks, other things that students need. So yeah, that's some of our, and we're happy to visit with anybody too about fundraising strategies or community partnerships, or partnering with others on campus has been really valuable too. We're grateful to departments that have been supportive of our programming, sending out ask letters to different divisions. We're always happy to talk to anybody about that as well.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And if we have folks to participants, attendees who are, part of the CNSS program, I really want to encourage you all to, have conversations with your program officers like myself, Jonathan, and Delphina about your budgets. Talk to them about campus engagement, and if you're interested in that kind of work that they're doing at USD of bringing speakers to your campus, that's definitely something you can do with your grant money with the CNSS program. I think it's a great way to, have campus engagement, creating that sense of belonging in the same way that they're doing of, showing students that there's this, variety, diversity of career programs that can happen. The other thing I just wanted to point out from their presentation is that space, the cultural, sorry, I forgot the name of the cultural space on campus, the lounge. I think, tribal colleges, right, the entire campus is for Native students, but sometimes you do need just that safe space on campus with a lounge, with a place that students can take a nap, with snacks. And I've seen that on a lot of campuses that I've gotten to visit. But, if there's a space like that on your campus, just think about, how much of that can create a safe space for students to kind of retreat to when all the stressors of school, midterms, if they're non-traditional student, they just need to take a break and relax, 15 minutes before class. I think it really makes a difference.
One thing I'll just add quickly too is, we, again, it's just really important for us to acknowledge that there were a lot of people that made our roles possible. I mean, so many people fought for us to have a physical space here. And so sometimes it just starts with a question, right? And starting to ask the questions of, can we use a classroom? Can we use, and so we definitely don't take that for granted. Again, I think it's possible on any college campus, just starting to ask the right questions of what types of resources, what do we want to invest in for Native students? The responsibility. It's not enough to just recruit Native students to our campuses, right? We have to have a reciprocal responsibility to take care of them. And so what is it for those of us that are especially on those four-year institutions where we may be a small population within the larger, we have a responsibility to our tribal nations, our communities, and to the families of the students that we become responsible for. So just starting to ask those questions about what can we invest in for Native students, I think is really important.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Megan and Brooke, for sharing all the wonderful things about your programming. I know I definitely learned a lot as well, and I know that our audience really appreciated it, and a lot of good questions in the chat as well. Definitely fulfilling that purpose that this is a learning environment and welcoming for everybody who are in different stages, whether you already have a first year program in progress, or if you're still in the progress of creating one. These are two really solid examples of people in both instances that are there to help you, and I'm really glad that they're more than willing to be able to help you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to them. They have their contact information. Definitely networking and support systems are probably like the biggest tools that we can utilize in higher education and in education in general. So definitely thank you again so much, Brooke and Megan, for being here and doing this. So yeah, I think we'll go ahead and go through with another 15-minute break before we get into the roundtable discussions. But before we take off for break, I do want to do the next poll. So we're going to give away another set of gift cards. Okay. Same thing, just put in your email for a chance to win a $20 gift card. And we'll leave it open for about a minute. So feel free to enter your emails and make sure you're double checking the spelling too. I should have a game show like soundtrack going on or something. Awesome. All right, you got about 30 seconds left to put your emails in. Again, this is to win a $20 gift card. And I think it's a vanilla gift card, so it's open to anything. It's not like a specific place that you have to go to. And we're giving away 2 of them too. So once we get this done, I will choose the winners and put them in the chat, and then we'll come back to do some discussion questions. So I'll go ahead and end it. All right, we got 26 people that entered. So I'll go ahead and do my number magic over here. Pick 2 people at random. Not me. I'm doing it like in Wheel of Names, so there's no biases here. But yeah, thanks everybody. We're gonna go on another quick 15-minute break. Again, just come back here and within the next, we'll say like 2:25 or something. I think that's math, right? I don't know. We'll say 2:30. We'll say 2:30. All right. At least I'll see y'all soon. All right, so welcome back, everybody. Let's go ahead and finish out strong with the last discussion questions or roundtable discussions. I think there's a couple of topics that were really highlighted during both of the sessions, and I think that it was there was a lot of similar trends with a lot of was discussed and everything. And something that I really enjoyed was talking about a sense of belonging and having those grounding places on these campuses. But I also wonder how it is too with students who might be virtual, who might be remote learning, especially, coming out of the quarantine when a lot of schools had to transition to those online formats. And I know a lot of schools are still kind of struggling with that too, but I think it'd be interesting to hear first off, like, how are we still engaging our students who might still be doing that online format are any of your institutions offering any sort of like online support systems or resources or even like any kind of programming? I know a lot of schools are starting to transition back to having in person and bringing their students back onto campus, but I know some students are still preferring the remote learning and stuff. So I think it'd be interesting to hear from a couple of our attendees here how you're engaging your online students or your remote students. And you can reply in the chat or you can raise your hand on the Zoom and then you can we can allow you to turn your mic on. We just gotta click a button. Some folks some time to kind of stew with that question. And it's okay if you don't have a strong system in tail, because I know that is definitely a challenge that a lot of institutions are facing right now. But any kind of like efforts on what your institutions might be doing would be good. Christina.
Hello, my name is Christina Kaufman. I'm the Academic Advising Manager at Thana Otham Community College in Sells, Arizona. Some things that we do to engage our online learners are consistently offer everything in an online modality. And so as the advising manager, I created monthly advising sessions that I not only hold in person, but virtually, but not hybrid. Because I found that when it's hybrid, the people who are online feel that they aren't being tended to as closely as the people who are there in person. And so by holding an entirely separate advising session each month throughout the semesters, really helps the students feel like they have an opportunity to meet with somebody and chat with our academic advisors. We also have faculty advisors, and they are generally not part of those sessions, but we do share their contact information, and they all have office hour links in their emails, which makes it easy for students to schedule those meetings with them as well.
Thanks for sharing, Christina. Yeah, that's definitely really important to offer those multiple options for students, because even though they might be attending your institution, they might not possibly live near the institution. And I know Tona Otham, I always hear a lot of their virtual programming and their different degree programs that they offer. And I know a couple of my friends have taken classes and gotten their associates at Tona Otham because of their vast online format schooling and programming. So yeah, thank you for sharing, Christina. Are there alternatives of online students that participate in your clubs or meeting you have? Sorry, let me read that again. Are there alternative of online students that participate in your clubs? I think that's a follow-up question to you, Christina. Are there a lot of online students that participate in your clubs, in the club meetings that you have online?
We're having trouble, as I'm sure a lot of schools are, or a lot of institutions are, getting students back on campus. And just in the fall is when we really started kickstarting clubs and promoting them more seriously. So the ones that are most active are SACNIS and oh, I can't remember. It's another science one, but the acronym starts with an N. Anywho, yeah, they do have significant online attendance, and those meetings are generally just held virtually. We have students who live on campus and who are part of those clubs, but they don't mind the virtual aspect since a majority is online. When it comes to things like student senate, archery, volleyball, and clubs that would require people to be more in person, we've
tried to organize opportunities for students to go get involved physically in their area, but it has been pretty tough.
Thank you for sharing, Christina. Yeah, I can imagine it is pretty tough, especially now that we've seen a lot of colleges and schools be able to have those capabilities to react to, drastic measures that happened during the quarantine, be able to kind of spring into action and still offer some programming and even finishing your programs while you're virtual in those virtual formats. So it's always weird how that happened, 5 years ago? Time doesn't make sense anymore. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing, Christina. And I think that kind of shifts gears into the next part of my question. And hopefully this kind of helps as well to help with, the involvement with our students. But how are your institutions, whether you're a college or even high schools too? I know we have some high school partners on here. How are your institutions working with student engagement and or getting those students back onto campus? What are some initiatives or programming that you have done? And if you want to share maybe some of your trends or some of the challenges that you're facing right now with that. I know there's a number of them, but definitely if you want to share that piece, and if any folks in the chats or anything want to share as well, or if you have anything that is working for your institution. I know food is always one of the biggest things that one of the best concepts to do with your students, because students love to eat. We love free food and everything. So Christina says food, gift cards, opportunity for travel are big draws. Definitely. And again, if anybody wants to come on mic too, or wants to verbally reply, just raise your hand and we can bring that for you. No worries. We can we can shift the direction just a little bit. But I know some things that I have also heard of. Definitely food is always a big thing. Student travel, definitely, like if you're able to take your students to go to an outing. But I know this is also a challenge as well for those schools that might be in more isolate areas. Is that the correct terminology? I can't think. But like, like you're not as close to like those type of amenities, or like the nearest city is like a couple hours drive or something. So those are always some challenges to look at as well with there. But I know looking internally into your own institutions and reaching out to different like faculty or staff, they always have ideas, or there's always some type of creative direction there where somebody will think of something to do with your students. And even it doesn't have to be anything of high maintenance either. Like I know somebody mentioned that they host movie nights, so even that, doing something just to kind of create that sense of community is really important. And I think again that was one of the topics of just creating that sense of belongingness and identity with the first year students, because while some of them might be coming from the same communities that they're going to college in, there's also some of those who are coming from different areas, and they might not be familiar with the area. So I definitely agree with Megan talking about, having those early move-in opportunities for your incoming students, just so that they can get familiarized with their campuses if they're moving on to campus and stuff. So yeah, those are just kind of my thoughts. Something too that I also wanted to bring up as well, and I'd be curious to hear what other institutions are doing. So there's this phenomenon that's called summer melt, and I think it was coined by the National College Attainment Network, NCAN for short. And basically, it's that lull of time after a student, gets admitted into college, and then they graduate from high school, and then the summer happens, and the summer melt happens when the student doesn't, they don't make it to orientation or they don't make it to those first days of classes. That's like the summer melt area. That's kind of like where they melt away. We don't see them or we don't hear from them, and then they become a no-show type of thing. So I want to hear from any of the college institutions that might have those first year experiences or any type of summer bridge pre-orientation program. How early are you starting your contact with your students? How with your incoming prospective first year students? I know everybody has different timelines and stuff, but how might you be combating that summer melt and encouraging that student to get to that first day of classes? See, somebody said, all right, Gabriella.
Hello. Well, this is at a college I used to work at. So I used to do recruitment for Walla Walla Community College. And in that experience, the way that we assured students got to our mandatory orientation is, well, we only had one recruiter and I was part-time at the time. And my supervisor printed a complete list of phone numbers, and I spent weeks over the summer just calling and asking, like, hey, you didn't register. And then I would actually take some data on one, did they plan on coming? Or two, like if they were not, what was the circumstances as to why they no longer wanted to attend? And it was really helpful on gathering information. I don't work in that type of position currently at Northwest Indian College, so I'm not actually familiar on what we do. But from my previous experience, that was super effective because then students would say like, oh, financially this. So then I'd help troubleshoot. And it was very helpful because out of the students that said they were not going to come, I was able to give advice or point them in the right direction. And so many of them ended up, well, unless they matriculated somewhere else, they would share their concern and we'd try to find a solution.
Thank you, Gabriella. Yeah, that's always something good to do as well. Having that constant communication with the students that are incoming. And I know some institutions do get creative with that too. Like some of them will establish like Facebook groups or some type of social media presence where they'll have their students join the page or follow a page or a group or something. And they'll send out like updates and stuff. But I think a lot of it too is getting the students to check their emails, which is definitely a challenge. I mean, even when I was working in our college success team, working with our scholarship recipients who are those college students, most of them, were pretty good about checking their email, but it was a lot of the younger students who were not as consistent with checking their emails and ultimately, were left them at risk of possibly being unlinked from their scholarships, which we don't want to do. So definitely having that communication and offering those different types of supports starting early definitely helps. Kiana has a question for anyone. How are you making orientation mandatory? What consequences, if any, are given to the students that aren't attending orientation? That's a good question. Does anybody want to respond to that?
Kayla, I think you mentioned College of Menominee Nation. Your orientation is mandatory. I don't know if you're still on the call, but do you all have any advice around that? Or is that something you're looking to do?
Christina said, we used to put holds on students' accounts for meeting with an advisor. However, this becomes an issue because only those in the admissions office could remove that hold, and they couldn't always do that right away post meeting. Yeah, that's correct. The systematic issues with that. I know previously I used to work with as an admissions counselor with the Institute of American Indian Arts, and we would do something similar as well about putting holds on student accounts, but they would also offer like an online version of the orientation. And I believe they would do modules instead of that. And like the biggest requirement would be for them to meet with their advisors. But definitely, yeah, like those are the ones that are always like, oh no, like we haven't heard from them. Are they still coming? And sometimes like those are the ones that don't come and they're victims of that summer melt. So yeah, I'm curious what others have that do have those orientations.
So it looks like Kayla, you returned. I was just wondering if at College in Menominee Nation, if orientation is mandatory, and if so, if there were any consequences given to students if they weren't able to attend the orientation. I've heard it a little bit through some of the colleges I've worked with, and how they've kind of worked with that is they have multiple orientation times. So having the orientation during the given time and then having a makeup time if they miss that time. So having the orientation during the scheduled time and then having it after hours for maybe non-traditional students or students who couldn't make it during that time, and then having a virtual time as well. So that there are multiple ways that that student can make it. And then if they aren't able to make it to one of those 3 times, then they would have to have a conversation with their advisor. That's what I've heard in the past from one of the colleges I've worked with. But yeah, that's the only kind of suggested answer that I have. And then Kayla answered, we say it's mandatory. However, we don't have any consequences. Moving forward, we want to start putting a hold on their registration for the next semester. If they do not attend, we also have an online orientation in our learning management system.
Yeah, that's good input. Yeah, and that is a good question regarding students who don't make that orientation and how do you move forward with that. So I don't know if others could share, like Sheila, similarly said it's mandatory, but we can't make students come, which is definitely true. So what are the steps after that you take if a student doesn't make the orientation? And then a follow-up question too would also be for those students who might, be put onto a hold or some sort of, I don't want to say consequence, but like some sort of action happens after that. How likely are they able to get past that, or do they fulfill that requirement of some sort, whether it's doing like an online module or speaking with their advisor? Like, what are the steps that are taken after that? That's definitely a question to start a good conversation with, though, because I think that a lot of schools would be in that area of trying to figure out, of course, like, getting the students back onto campus, engagement, retention, matriculation, but also just having them make it to that orientation, those few students who don't ultimately make it, and where that conversation can start, or where like something might have discouraged them. I don't know how you would make it mandatory. We don't want to chase students away by punishing them. Yeah, exactly. I agree.
One of the things this question kind of reminds me of is something I've heard from some of the colleges I work with is the first year experience course. Like a lot of colleges have a course like that to kind of help prepare students for study skills. You know, how do you message with your professor? And, you know, how writing skills and different things like that. How do you use office hours? A lot of the things we heard today about that. But something that I've heard from some colleges is that students don't always take that class in the first semester. And it's a requirement to graduate. And sometimes you'll hear students will be like, oh, I wish I would have taken this in the first year of school, so I was prepared and I didn't have all these, you know, I didn't have an issue like down the road. So it makes me think a lot about that too. Like you can't make that sort of mandatory either, because they can opt out of whatever, you know, schedule that they put together. So I think it's like how you work with your advisors as well, and making sure, you know, students are prepared, or if you have enough instructors as well, and space, so that all the first year students are able to take that class in their first semester. I don't know if folks have any advice around that as well, or if they've seen that at their college, or if they have a first year experience course as well, and what they've sort of seen from that.
I guess that can be mostly our ending question. So kind of like our little tidbit to leave you all with something to continue to think about, and, you know, maybe figure out what that process looks like, or those type of supports that your institution might hold or could possibly create. But yeah, definitely, you know, I think a lot of the conversations today were very meaningful, and the two presenters, the two schools that were here in the different spaces with their first year programming, definitely were really beneficial, and I hope that you all enjoyed it. I think that's something that we want to continue to do as we go forward with the first year symposium, is create more of these conversations and create more, maybe even like collaborations with each other too. So yeah, I think we'll go ahead and just wrap it up here. But yeah, thank you all so much for attending the first ever first year experience symposium. I just want to say, yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to be here to put yourself amongst others who are wanting to be in this learning environment, and listen and gain some advice and tips and tricks and all of the wonderful words from both of our presenters from College of Menominee Nation and the University of South Dakota. But definitely, if you want to continue the conversations, take part of Autumn's initiative with the community of practices. She put the forms in the chat, and yes, we will go ahead and share this here as well. So again, many thank yous, Rieth, so much for being here. This is the last event evaluation for this afternoon session. So please, before you log off today, if you could take some time to do this. It's really quick, 7 questions, but they're really easy to answer. We also will share these with our presenters as well, so that they can take these with them. And there's also a section to say like thank you in there to them as well. But yeah, if you're wanting to keep in contact with any other events that we host here at the College Fund, specifically for our students and TCUs, and other college staffs, we also post a lot of our like webinars, content, and everything on Native Pathways. So we are found on all those different platforms there. Please give us a follow. That's where you'll start to see some more events that are popping up and everything. We also have a newsletter as well, so feel free to sign up for that if you want. You can find that on our College Fund website. And this is also on our social medias. You'll find upcoming events that'll be happening. So one that I want to plug really quickly is going to be the First Year Experience Go to College series, and that's going to be our student-facing summer series. That's going to happen in July. So that one, We're in our third year of doing that, and it's 3 weeks basically of a virtual series for all students who are going into to college for the first time. Just talking about all these different topics that we're talking about, you know, like sense of belonging, building confidence, building your own schedule, how to stay on top of organization, like all those different things. And definitely we might even reach out to a couple of folks in our networks to host those different topics and, you know, just get our students going. It's called Go to College, where it's all about college readiness, getting those students ready and trying to combat that summer melt as well. So, but yeah, thank you again. Autumn, do you have any other final words?
No, I just want to say thank you. Thank you all for joining, taking time from your day to listen to our speakers, to learn, to share among each other. Really enjoyed our conversations and questions and hearing from folks. I put in the chat a little survey if anyone would like to continue conversations and community with one another. We're doing a community of practice around first year experience. The survey says to fill it out by December 31st, but please, it's still open. If you'd like to sign up and join, please feel welcome to fill it out and join. So I have your contact information and can follow up with you. And please fill out our survey, helps a ton. Thanks so much again for joining. It was awesome to spend time with you all today.
Yes. Thank you so much. If you have any other questions or want to reach out to us, feel free to email any one of us. We'll also share some of the contact information that was shared with us from our presenters as well. And again, please fill out the event evaluations for both the AM and PM sessions if you were there. The session is being recorded, so even if you missed a couple, even if you missed either sessions or you want to pass this along to others who will find this beneficial, it'll be on our YouTube page and we'll show that. I will send out emails as well once those are uploaded. But for the event evaluations, when you do submit those, you'll be entered to win some various prizes and everything. And then for those who did win the gift cards, we'll go ahead and send them. I'll go ahead and send those out to you as well shortly. But yes, thank you all so much. Again, please take care of yourselves and feel free to reach out if you have any questions or want to connect about anything. Follow our social media at Native Pathways again to keep in touch with the future events that we might have. And I hope you all have a lovely rest of your afternoon, evening. I hope you're staying warm if it's cold where you're at. If you are sick or catching a sickness, hopefully that you recover pretty quickly. And yeah, just have a good weekend. Have a good rest of your month, academic year. And yeah, we'll see you soon at the next event. Thank you all.